How level 18 Drakhar has pet dragons? Okay, so here's the first thing that we can go ahead and tell you. Githyanki. The Githyanki, centuries and centuries ago, had a pact with red dragons. It was an ancient pact that was forged with the old rulers of the Githyanki race. And Drakhar basically used the knowledge of that pact to try to re-establish it. Which he did to somewhat mediocre success. Obviously, he managed to get a couple of dragons in on his side. What he promised them in return for their service was basically free roam of all the open lands of Arconis. Hey, help us win the war. I don't give a shit what you do. You can eat as many cows and pigs and sheep and as you want. We're not going to mess with you. Have open course. So dragons, being that generally speaking they're very persecuted, even an adult dragon is no match for the king's army or anything like that, or even a group of powerful heroes. As you noticed, Drakhar was only able to get one adult dragon and one juvenile dragon on side. Those dragons that were much more powerful, either venerable or ancient, were too wise to fall for Drakhar's BS, basically. But yes, that's how come he had dragons. They were not pets. It was a pact that he revoked, or he basically brought back into being from a very ancient time. What are the perks that come with the Lady of the Realm title? Okay, well basically, if Kia, as a lady, Kia has her entire family, or her entire bloodline is now classed as noble. She has a patents of nobility, which means her offspring are automatically entitled as noble. Here's the kicker. Under different circumstances, Kia would have probably been awarded lands as well. The problem is, the kingdom's piss poor broke right now. So it's like, you've got the title, but you can't really have any of the perks that come with it at the time. Now that doesn't mean, however, that if Kia wanted to, she could probably set up a homestead and would be allowed to turn it into a town and village and basically rule it. Just like the Lord of Finnerton and any of that stuff.
Kia Town.
Nice. So yeah, you could have Kia Town if you want to. So yeah,
yes.
That's pretty much. Howreroll, I know I've asked this before, but now your story is over. How does it feel? It feels good. I mean, it's a campaign that I had to modify the campaign from its original thing to include a lot of additional stuff, just to kind of get the players where we needed to do and to compensate from some things. But all in all, I think the bulk of the campaign itself went very well. Who was the lady in white? You know, who was she? That is one thing that I don't want to elaborate too much on, because as clearly you can probably tell, she's not done with our heroes, and therefore they may not be done with her. So that's something that's going to have to be put away a little bit. Will there be spoilers for the next campaign? There won't be spoilers, but we will be giving you some information, such as the name of the campaign. We're going to tell you the 4 characters that are going to be in it, but we're not going to tell you who's playing who. And we're not going to tell you sexes either. Nice. So we're going to give you classes and races, but not sexes. And you guys are going to have to guess who you think is going to be playing which class, right? So there we go. Any sneak peeks in the next campaign? Yep. Will be coming up. Do you have any further campaign that you wrote decades ago that you're itching to run? I've got a couple of ideas, but none that I fleshed out as much. Okay, so what did Gaston do during the battle? I was waiting for someone to ask that. We're going, Sizzler. Thanks for the follow, buddy. And Skorash, thank you as well. Okay, wasn't he supposed to take care of the wounded and maybe save at least a handful of them? CLL Smooth, thank you for that follow. Alright, so Gaston Calares, as you guys know, was sent on a private mission. He was told that given the opportunity to administer to any of the wounded and try to rally and stuff, if he was able to. knowing full well that Radovan would be preoccupied and not really able to do that. Well, Gaston Calares did not get to do that. Now, Gaston Calares, as you guys know, is a very high-level priest in the Topaz Order, which means he has a lot of powers that nobody really is aware of. Well, Gaston Calares led a private assault on the Citadel. Remember, Drakhar had set up home base in the Citadel that was being housed by the Githzeri. What our heroes do not know is, if you remember, the Githzeri delivered an ultimatum to the king and said, and there was something left to be discussed, because the king said, I'm not prepared to just give them free roam. Well, Tadros had been in contact with the Githzeri. And behind the scenes, an agreement was made that the Githzeri would fight, but they were going to get the Citadel back, and they were going to be given a certain amount of lands around the Citadel. But the king knew that the chances were that Drakhar had a vanguard. And this Snuggler, thank you for that subscribe. Give that guy some love and take your pants off. All right, yeah. He
take your pants off.
So he led a private. He basically led a private assault team against the Citadel to make sure that Drakhar had nothing in the wings that were going to need to be wiped out, because they already knew. If you guys remember, the king had already told Radovan, "We're not going to win this, and if we do, we're going to get our asses beat." He knew that they wouldn't be in a position to try to deal with the Citadel itself. So they had a private unit, basically like a little commando group, go and assault the Citadel, led by Gaston Calares. So that's what happened there. That's why you didn't really see him. But as he's back and alive and in the city, you can clearly understand he succeeded. So the Citadel now sits empty, which could or could not be something that our heroes may be able to do something with in the future. Who knows?
Kia Town with the Citadel.
Kia Town. I already have my theme song.
All right. Howreroll. How powerful of an ally would the party have had if they were able to enlist the Lord of the Weeping Glade the first time they met him? He would have been a badass, no doubt about it. I mean,
damn it.
But of course, and here's the thing, that was written in as a kind of a high-end player perk with a low-end eventuality. In other words, our heroes would have had to have agreed to his initial terms and gone along with the oath. Then, when they found out, because remember, he was pissed at whoever it was that was decimating the forest, which they then found out after the fact it was Drakhar's forces chopping down the trees to build their war machines. So if the heroes would have been in a position to have agreed and stayed on his good side, they would have then found out who the real culprits were, and if they could have then said to him, look, this is the bastard that's responsible, this is the guy that's dealing with your forests, you need to deal with him, but you know you can't do it alone, but we have an army that we're raising to deal with him if you want in, and he would have leapt at the chance. Paganheart, thank you for subscribing. Give that guy some love. Very much appreciate you, dude.
Thanks, man.
And of course, being a verdant prince of the Fey realm, he could have brought all manner of weird and wonderful creatures. He could have put tree ents on the battlefield. He could have done a whole bunch of things. And the battle may not have happened where it happened, should that have been the case. They may have chosen a different battlefield. But yeah, so he was a badass. Now, also, Marlowe was right in the fact that if you guys remember, she said, well, the dragons attacked, so they've already attacked within 10 miles of the... If you guys had gone back and held him accountable, because the words of his oath were, we will help you and fight if they're attacked within... You could have gone back and said, hey, they've been within 10 miles. He might have said, well, yeah, but we're only fighting here, and y'all could have argued that's not what you agreed. You agreed this, and you could have pretty much, using his own oath against him, convinced him to take the field of battle under those circumstances. So you could have got him, like, used his own friggin' oath against him a little bit. And
Yeah.
They mentioned it briefly, but then it was kind of brushed under the rug because so much other stuff was going on. It was like a fleeting thought that caught light, and then a wind come along and blew it out before it had a chance to truly ignite. Okay, here's a question for Bane. How does it feel to kill Drakhar and also being a princess, being publicly announced in front of the kingdom of your status?
Okay, how does it feel to kill Drakhar? It felt pretty damn good because...
Donate your pants. Thanks for the phone. Oh, we need to thank all our donors. So let's let you answer this question, and then we'll do that next.
Okay, and you missed one question for me a little bit above as well.
Oh, okay, sorry. If it's not in red, I'm probably missing it.
Yeah. Okay, so she had just watched the prince die, and even though she has no relationship with that, she's still in like this whole like duty bound / he is my brother / kind of thing. So she was pretty damn happy, especially since she went after the purple robed guy and he kind of got away on her. She was pissed.
Right.
She's like, I'm not useful at all. And being a princess publicly announced in front of the kingdom of your status. Okay, she was not expecting the king to do that.
I don't think anybody was expecting that, were you, really?
She was expecting to know, maybe had a conversation with him on the side. Like, Radovan, Kia, and Marlowe didn't even know that the king knew.
Oh, wow.
So,
Right.
that was kind of like a... And, Raisa, she's pretty shy and whatnot. So that basically just scared her out of her little boots. She was shaking pretty
Awesome. All right, well, let's thank our kind donors. So Ruby was the first one to donate. His kind donation came with the message, great campaign,
Ruby.
guys. Can't wait to see what you guys have in store. Look forward to you being super evil. Well, Jane being herself. Heart, love you all.
Thanks, Ruby.
And another
Yay.
donation just come in there, so let me update that as well so I have the correct list. Okay. The next one come from Drakhar, who said, well played. Good game, bitches. Good game. Thank you, Drakhar.
Drakhar.
I'm glad you
Thanks,
took
Drakhar.
defeat. Glad you
You're a
took
good
defeat well.
guy, Drakhar.
You're not
No
a
hard
good
feelings.
guy.
Then Cal said, I'm home, Mommy. Maybe.
Aw.
Maybe. Your Pants said... This one cracked me up when I read it. Why am I never allowed? What did I ever do to you other than ride up occasionally?
Aww.
Too
sorry.
funny. Whoever
Mr.
your pants
Pants.
is, very
Vanished.
funny. And then Fledo gave us a kind donation last Thursday of the campaign ever. Thanks for all the good time, folks. That's right. And of course, it's the campaign. That's just one story. So we're
Thank
going to
you,
be back
Fledo.
with a vengeance. Ironically, that's
Wow.
kind of an apt kind of play on words there, really. Back with a vengeance, isn't it, considering the next campaign? All right. You said I missed one. What was the one I missed?
Yeah,
Ben?
okay, so it says, does Raisa feel ambushed by the king's announcement, and how does she feel about the celebrity status? So this one kind of plays off the other one. Does she feel ambushed? I don't think ambushed. She's just very surprised because she did not expect to be embraced the way she was. Like, she was expecting like okay, we'll keep this hush hush, the prince just passed away, we have to tell the queen, she probably won't be happy about it, so this was kind of what was going on in Raisa's head, and the fact that it was just like, you are my daughter and you're going to be in my life and everybody's going to know about you, was kind of like
Right,
and how
there
does
you
she
go.
feel about the celebrity status? Well, Raisa's not about that, right? She's been shunned her whole life.
She's probably
so
also in sticker shock at the moment. It probably hasn't processed
Oh, yeah.
it, right?
she doesn't even know what to think
Striker.
right now.
Okay, we did that one. Bite size. Did the demon ever actually offer anything to the other side, or was that an empty threat? What would have happened if Kia or anyone did take the pact? Okay, yes, it was an empty threat. The demon did not go to Drakhar. He had no reason to. He had no in with Drakhar. What would have happened if Kia did take the pact? They would have basically had the minions of hell ride on the battlefield for them. But, as you can imagine, things would have not gone well because the king would have been disgusted. He probably would have shunned all of the heroes if he knew that they were responsible for bringing vile and evil corrupt forces to fight in his name. Would it have made it much more likely that they won the battle? Yes. Would a lot more humans be alive? Probably.
Interesting.
But the cost would have been severe. The
My
implications
planner ally
been
would have
bad.
been like, no go, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
imagine.
your planar ally would have been like,
Because I'm out.
Why the hell are you even on this battlefield? He probably would have showed up, picked you up, and flew you off. What happened to the two evil sisters, the Glycerin sisters? Are they potential future plot? Absolutely, they're still alive. What happened to them? Well, who knows? There's a question there that ties into some other things. Why, if you guys remember, the gladiator, the ex-gladiator champion that our hero, that Marlowe defeated in the arena and then our heroes rescued, he said that he made a promise that he would come back. He had every intention of doing so. And if you mention, he said that his family was to the west and he had to go find them. Well, the Glycerin sisters did not give up easily. And he was being pursued. So the Glycerin sisters hired people to hunt him down, and he is on the run, which is why he has not yet been in a position to come back. So that's why we didn't see him.
Those bitches.
How would the campaign have ended if everyone had died? Well, first of all, everyone would be dead. That's a thing.
No!
Secondly, Drakhar would become the evil ruler of Arconis, and the face of the world would be a very different place. It's in a bad state right now, and that's one thing I want to make sure everybody understands. Our heroes in the kingdom won, but the kingdom is in a terrible, terrible state right now. It is financially depleted. It has little to nobody to defend it. Everybody that was anybody that could have kept crime at bay are all but dead. So things are going to be a little darker in Arconis for a while, that's for sure. Howreroll, why did the king ask to have the prince? Okay, so we never really covered that. But we can cover that, because I know you guys want to know. Here's the thing. If you remember when Marlowe was brought back to life, how that all kind of happened. Well, the prince, as you guys probably realized, he is a very honorable person. He is a very stand-on ceremony, old tradition. He wouldn't have accepted a resurrection request, because you have to be willing. He would not have been willing. He would have felt...
And he died in battle. Which
exactly.
Was like
he died in battle. That's how he wanted to die. It was an honorable way to die. He wouldn't have come back, because in his mind, cheating death would have been dishonorable. In his mind. Because he was defeated fair and square. Now, you could argue, well, he really wasn't, because Drakhar vanished and then shanked him from behind and took him out unfairly. Just because Drakhar didn't fight fair doesn't mean the prince wouldn't have. So two wrongs don't make a right. So that's, even if the king would have asked, which he wouldn't because he knew his son. He knew his son, so he wouldn't have asked Radovan to do that. Radovan may or may not offer before he leaves, but he's going to be told, while we appreciate it. Think about it, Gaston Calaris is right there. He's higher level priest than Radovan. If they would have wanted it done, he could have done it. You know, forget the fact they probably don't have a 5,000 gold piece diamond to rub together at this point.
Also ask yourself, what makes a better story?
Well, that's right, too.
Resurrection is generally a cheap plot. You know, it's not good.
Okay.
It's not a good
Did
story.
Did anyone grab the glowy swords that Drakhar dropped? No. Nobody did grab Drakhar's twin glowing katana type sword.
I will say I thought about it, but I was more interested in the dragon heads.
Right. So I mean, and there was all those weird silvery looking swords. There was a bunch of those that fell on the battlefield as well. That alone is a very, very strange and weird twist that may happen. Because now, if you remember, when Raisa went to the astral plane, she had a silver cord attached to her, right? Now, that is predominantly important, because astral travel is only possible. The only way you can find your way in and out, because everything is black, nothing looks the same. It's like being in space almost. You find little pockets of life in places, but between it is voids. They travel around on huge, big flying ships called spelljammers and stuff like that. But the astral cord is what ties you to your realm. Now, they're basically indestructible. But all the Githyanki weapons, those silver blades, the ones that flow and move, are capable of severing astral cords. That's what the Githyanki use them for. So, if
That
one
could've
of
been
them would have
terrible.
shown up, they could have cut that cord and Raysa would have never been able to find her way home. So think about it. If you astrally travel, you've got this cord tied to you, and a Githyanki can come along and cut that cord, and you're screwed. Well, there's suddenly a shitload of those weapons in Arconis laying on a battlefield somewhere. Who knows what's going to happen to them? Where they're going to end up? Now, they require an incredibly specific level of proficiency to wield. They're not anything that you can wield. You literally would have to take weapon proficiency specialization with that exact weapon, which would mean someone would have to get one and train with it and train with it and train with it to even be able to wield it half sensible. But as it stands, they are all +2 or +3 magical two-handed swords, as well as everything else. So they're nice weapons. They're just not easy for anybody else to wield. For Bane, did the thought of using the diamond from your mom to bring back the prince be considered?
Not at all. And I will say that's because, consider this. She talked to her mom, found out that her grandfather's dead, her mom's becoming the queen, she's now allowed back in the kingdom she's been banished from and hated in her whole life. And then she goes to dinner the next night, and the king publicly announces her as the princess in front of the entire kingdom. She's thinking about a few
Got a
other
lot to
things
think
right
about,
now.
How many maps did you rack up this campaign, Gore? Hammer, I've got no idea how many on-screen maps. I will show you this. These are, now bearing in mind, when I write campaigns, a lot of it is up here. I'm not writing it to hand to somebody else to produce it, right? So it's not all written out neat and tidy. But this is kind of what my notes look like. And this is the notes just for the Children of Drakhar. This is what it took. That's the campaign. So if you kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 6 legal pads full of basically nothing more than scribble that means something. It's not even in depth, but that's how that campaign basically looks on paper. Were the Children of Drakhar Yankiti proud to accept the demon's request, or was he bluffing? We already answered that one. He was bluffing. He didn't go to them. Does anyone have a particular ritual they do before game to get into character? Do any of you guys do anything? They just show up and play, right?
Just for any reflection that needs to be done.
Right.
You know, getting your head back at where the end of the last episode was.
Ruby Har, will you be announcing the new 4th person? Nope. When will the next campaign start on the stream? I'll answer that in a little bit. What would happen if the items from the dungeon were swept around? Who would get what?
Renaissance items, if we picked them up differently,
Wouldn't matter.
How would they be different?
Because they're magically atoning, right? So the potions were potions, but all the magical items. Now, Kia picked up, or Radovan picked up one of the metal rods. For Radovan, it turned into a morning star, right? For Raysa, it would have become a short sword. For Marlowe, it would have probably become either a kama or a pair of like silver nunchucks. For Kia, it would have become a staff. So the idea of the thing that makes Renazin, the creator's magic, so valuable is the attunement, not the power of the item. In the fact that if Radovan dies and somebody else picks up that weapon, it will become something that they can use. It will become automatically useful. So the real power is in not what it can do, but it's the fact that it can become so many different things. And that's why they're so coveted, is because if you can imagine the practical value of something like that, especially if you figure out a way to make it switch, which of course our heroes don't know anything about. It may be possible, it may be not.
Switch?
But who knows? So yeah, there you go. Harold Gore, I always wondered how just big that mountain pass really was. Did they explore most of it? It seems... Nope! Another spoiler. At the back of that witch's cave, there was a continuation that would have come out on the other side of the Panarian Ribs, behind where Drakhar's forces were showing up.
Oh my god.
If you guys would have discovered that, you could have led a group of units through that mountain and hit him from behind. Again,
Oh my
didn't happen,
God.
didn't come out that way, but it was there.
Good night, Night Striker. Thank you, man.
Right. And we've got some stuff that we're gonna go over here in a minute. I'm trying to get through a bunch of these questions, but in a minute I may just have to stop and go through some of this and come back. Could Raisa offer to use of the diamond she got from her mother to bring back the prince?
They're re-asking a lot of questions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just be patient. I'm getting through them, but obviously taking time. So we answered that one. This is my second time watching your stream. I gotta say, I have no idea what is going on, but it's very entertaining. Thank you for the show. No problem. The good thing, Ricky, is you're going to be in on the start of the new campaign, so you're going to be able to follow it from the get-go. So that'll be awesome for you. You won't get lost. How does it feel to take down Drakhar and public? Done that one. Okay. What would happen if the items from the dungeon was... Okay, done that one. Okay, Pagan Heart. So I know a lot of people have different views, takes on this. How are you all taking evil to be in this campaign? Or more of a wait and see and maybe challenge that view even?
So, like, challenging what evil means, like,
How
for our
evil
next
is
campaign.
played.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Is there plans for another campaign with these characters? Jetstream, I think at some point it's inevitable. I don't know when, though. What would the magical items have turned into differently if people had attuned them? Yeah, basically, as I said, just in Radovan's case, if he would have taken the longer staff, it would have become like a two-handed mace, as opposed to the one-handed mace. The Marlowe picked up the folded cloth, right? So for Radovan, it may have become a magical cloak. For Kia, a magical robe. For Raisa, possibly probably would have become some kind of cloak that allowed her to go invisible, like an elven cloak or something like that. It would have done something. But for Marlowe, of course, it just basically became a new quote-unquote gi to defend, to help protect her. That's what it did. So, what's the story with the gladiator? I answered that one. Here we go. Okay, did the queen know about the king's relationship with the elven princess? Yes and no. She knew it happened, but was not aware. Zisu, thank you for resubscribing. Give that person some knowledge.
Thank you, man.
Take the pants off. Yeah, so she knew he told her about it, but of course she had no clue because he had no clue that there was a child come from that union. Why didn't Tadros use a single spell from his higher spell levels? He could have made a huge difference to the outcome of battle. Okay, because his job was to stick by the king and make sure the king did not die. That was his entire job. That's why he never left the king's side, and he was basically unsure of what was going to happen. He felt that sooner or later Drakhar and the king were going to tie into it, and he needed to... So basically Tadros was holding back a lot in case he needed to do something. Also,
which he did. I mean, the king got grabbed, and he teleported him back, and he did lightning when the dragon was close by.
So, I mean, that's the thing, is he also had some spells, contingency spells and stuff in place that he would have used to save the king's life. Because of a lot of those things being done, he didn't have a lot of other spell slots that he could use for fireballs, lightning bolts, all that kind of stuff. He did a lot. I mean, he did a lot of lightning bolts and stuff, but because of the fact that he had other things to make sure didn't happen, a lot of his spells were aimed at protecting the king. So, that was pretty much the thing with him. Why weren't there more magic users on the field? Were there no other casters able to make the call or arms, or just none to answer? Okay, primarily, it really comes down to this. For the story's sake, and in order to hold, if you can understand, to have a battle as big as we did, it would have been very cumbersome to throw a bunch of additional magic users in there and stuff like that. So instead, what I did to make it flow is I limited the amount of additional magic users that quote-unquote showed up to defend the king. In the same time, I also made sure that there were not a whole bunch of those Githyanki witches on Drakhar's side. So I kind of removed that equation from both sides. More than anything, to not take away from the dramatic effect for the players and let them be the stars of the battle, but also because, as you saw, it took 6.5 hours to get through the darn thing as it was. So it was a story-driven choice more than anything. Were Drakhar swords the same odd balance swords? They were and they were not. They were silver swords, the same in the fact that they were that weird flowing material, but they were considerably more powerful than +2 and 3. Let's just put it that way. Those were some serious badass weapons. Let's see. What is your next campaign? We're going to tell you here in just a minute. How would be the size of the armies if the elves and the forest came to fight? Oh, well, I mean, if the elves showed up and the minions of Drakhar would have basically been seriously ass-whooped, is what would have happened. The only reason the fight went down to the nail is because they didn't have the allies that they could have had. But as we said before, what allies they had was basically down to the missions that the players did leading up to it. Oh, you were talking about the mountain pass where Shara died. No, that was pretty much where it was. Alright. Is there a magic school in your world? Not a school, no. There is no Hogwarts. What was the letter of the king from Race's mother? Not sure if that was skipped or even seen. We did cover that on the show.
Someone also mentioned about Korthan troops. Korthan's troops did show up.
Yeah, they were there.
They were there too.
They were all part of the battle. I mean, they weren't segmented out as separate units because they were all part of the king's army, but they showed up. What will Chekhov's gun be in the next campaign? I have no clue. Okay, so let's go over a few things. So let's talk about the campaign, and I'm going to throw some questions at our players for a bit. So hold your questions at this point, because if you ask them now, they're not going to get answered, but we will come back to you guys, because we're probably going to open some up as we go. So let's start out with this. So our campaign opens with our heroes approaching Rochek's camp. Now, Rochek, if you remember, was the half-orc that... basically, when the lady in white said to Kia, you know, or said to them, and you're a far cry from the girl that used to basically use her powers to lure innocent people to their deaths, Kia used to do that. If you didn't see Kia's backstory...
On accident.
Yeah. She was unaware of that. Now, what happened with Kia was she was working with a group of mercenaries under the impression that they were helping people. In fact, the group of mercenaries was in league with a half-orc and his mercenaries. Long story short, they were setting up scenarios and killing innocent peasants. Kia was seemingly luring in the evil orcs, because what they would do is they would show up and say, hey, you know, Rochek and his orcs would show up and plague an area. Then conveniently the mercenaries would show up to rest the night and would then offer their services to defeat the orcs. They would then go meet Rochek, have a joke, have a laugh, take a few choice items from Rochek's camp. Look, here we killed the orcs, here's some of their weapons that we took. And they'd go back and basically rob them blind, take a whole bunch of money. Well, they'd get all of their money, have a celebration, ply the farmers or merchants or whatever with spiked drink. And then, when they left, Rochek and his boys would show up and murder everybody and loot the place dry. Well, Kia, unbeknown to her, was acting as like a decoy to lure the orcs in. She was responsible for making a lot of that happen. So, when she had the opportunity, when she realized, and they met Rochek, and Rochek basically fought with them and escaped once more, they had all pledged to Kia, this was pre-Marlowe, that should they survive the marks of intrigue, that they would go with her and face Rochek. So that's where we started. Our heroes began, you saw them fight and defeat Rochek, and at that point they met Lady Harrington and her maid, as well as Marlowe. Okay, so that's kind of where things kicked off. That's where Marlowe came into the story. At that point they escorted Lady Harrington to Arundel and met Lord Harrington, and the first thing that really happened there where we're going to start looking at some of the events that really help pull this campaign together and the deciding factors. So, when they first got to Arundel, they entered the Fox and Hen Tavern, and there was a male and female barbarian there. Now, does Kia remember the male and female barbarian?
Of course I do.
Right. So, basically, the first thing that kind of happens here is Kia sits down, awkwardly chatting to them. They're questioning her about whether she's a witch, and then immediately she verifies and clarifies that by going, "Me, a witch? No," poof, and flames appear in her hand, and all hell broke loose. Now, so this is a question for Jane. And I'm going to ask you guys in turn. And I'm going to ask
what the fuck were you thinking?
Slightly different question of Marlo, because it doesn't apply to her. So, where, from Kia's perspective, or you looking at your character Kia, okay, how much of a journey, how different do you see Kia as at the start of this campaign versus how she was in the Marks of Intrigue? So it's a two-part question. And then, so in other words, how did she change during the Marks of Intrigue to bring her to where she was at the beginning of this campaign?
Yeah.
And then, how do you see her now? Like, what's the change that's happened that really...
Funny.
So,
well, Marks of Intrigue, she starts off, you know, when she realizes she had been helping slaughter innocent people for a really long time. In the Marks of Intrigue, you kind of meet her when she's wanting to repay for everything she had done wrong. So she was looking for the start of, you know, how can I help those who I hurt and like make good choices. And
she was chaotic good alignment, right?
Yeah, she
Initially.
was chaotic good at the time. And throughout the campaign, she slowly started making choices and forgetting kind of the reason she was like adventuring because of this, you know, mark on her arm. She started being a little bit reckless with her spell casting and, you know, started caring less about if somebody got hurt on accident by her spell. So by the end,
we definitely noticed that. I don't think anybody missed that.
You know, yeah, like there was a time where she fireballed right
Accidentally
where a dwarf was.
There's a quote, I believe, somewhere up there. There it is. Someone already got it. I almost killed a dwarf on purpose.
Yes.
Purpose.
Yes. So by the end of
Yes.
Marks of Intrigue, she was very much, I guess, jaded and wasn't so much thinking about doing good so much as helping herself, right?
So she become kind of selfish.
Yeah, just a little bit more selfish.
Now,
So in this new campaign, you see her, she just finally finishes a goal that she had been searching after for years to defeat Rorschach, right? So she kills Rorschach, and all of a sudden she had done what she had been aiming to do, and now she had absolutely nothing and had no aim or direction. And at this point she thought, well, I've become pretty selfish, I might as well keep going down this path. So she got a little bit worse, until she decided to try to ride Cal, you know, jump on his back when she was, you know, mini. And Cal said, "What you say the words, Gore? How did Cal word it? Like, I'm not coming back to you until
basically
you're good."
he was like, "I'm sick
know.
and tired of you. You're not the person you used to be, and I can't be around you anymore." So he left.
Right.
It was like
that was.
he was struggling because, see, here's the thing. Magical familiars have to remain close to their master's alignment. They don't change with it. And when Kia became chaotic neutral, Cal did not like that. But as she began to start to slip further and further and further away from chaotic neutral and started showing elements and signs of potential evil, Cal couldn't deal with it anymore. So he had to cut ties.
Right.
And to him, the last straw was when... Because she always used to at least be kind to Cal and take care of him. But when she sat on him, and then it wasn't just the fact that she sat on him, it was the fact that she thought it was funny and she tried to play it off as a joke. Yeah. He was like, okay, I now see how far you've gone down the wrong path. Because you don't even realize you almost killed me and you think that's funny? Screw you, hippie, I'm out. But, as it turns out, the Lady in White around the same time had showed up, and as you guys saw, she
adopted him.
knew that our heroes, however she knew, maybe because I played her and I knew, but, meta. But she knew our heroes were going to be called upon to do something that was going to require them to be incredibly selfless. But all of them, at that point, were in one way or another selfish. So she called winter down on Finnerton, and the Krampus ran wild to show them, to teach everybody the error of their ways. Like, when you do bad shit happens. And that was kind of like a slap in the face wake-up call, like, hey, get your asses out of your head and start becoming decent people again, because that's what you're going to need to be able to do what you have to do. The world is bigger than you. You kind of have destinies, as it were. So that's kind of where she played in. And as you can already tell, she is in some way omnipotent in the fact that she knew all this shit about your past. So obviously she had an ability to watch you, to play, observe
Creepy.
you. Cal, knowing that he wanted to keep an eye on Kia and was hoping against all hope that she would find her way back down the path of good, attached to the Lady in White, not because he wanted to attach to her, but through her he had a way of watching Kia without having to be anywhere near Kia. He couldn't stand being around her because it's like too painful for him. So it's like, I want to watch from afar, and she was basically Cal's medium for doing that. Okay, so same question to Radovan. How did Radovan change?
Marks of intrigue. He was a racist drunk who was actually the most selfish at the beginning of Marks of Intrigue.
Right.
He was thrust with two strangers who he didn't like just by looking at them because he was racist. He survived several trials, tribulations, found that, his bad habits were probably going to lead to his death earlier than it should.
Hey, liver failure, if nothing else.
Made the ultimate sacrifice by losing his powers and connection to Cuthbert to save Reza, knowing that he needed to save Reza in order to potentially win versus the cults. Without her, even with the powers, they would be kind of screwed. At the beginning of the Children of Drakhar, he was just there to fulfill the pledge. And at the very beginning, he was like, I fulfill the pledge, I go home. So he was still clearly a little selfish, like he was still thinking about just himself, and not about the party and their friendship, which he didn't even consider a friendship to some degree, right? He did things for them, but they still never really got along. I mean, they just kind of existed out of necessity of together. And then slowly but surely, he got roped into this larger-than-life thing. The Krampus really hit home with him when that occurred.
Right.
And from the Krampus on, he really tried his damnedest to be a good guy. Although still he had that edge from his past that still came in every once in a while. Like when dealing with nobles.
So he really took the Krampus, he really took the Lady in White's lesson to heart.
That was a huge turning point, because when those people came in off the streets in Finnerton asking for help, he didn't jump up to help them. But he didn't ignore them either. He was still kind of selfishly thinking, well, we've been betrayed before, so why would I listen to them? Why would I trust everyone now?
Right.
He was still hard of trusting. He was the first to like the Vizier, the king he thought was a good guy. I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the end, where he realized his place in the world, and that he was not the most important thing in the room when he entered.
Right.
They were more important people. And that's why when people were like, the Vizier's evil, he was offended by that. He was like, the dude is being the dude,
Right.
Hey,
well, and as you guys saw, it turns out, at least as far as you know, the Vizier was not evil. He's just...
As far as we know.
Right. But obviously...
You never know.
He is the king's advisor. He does have a lot of responsibility. The king has certain luxuries that he can afford. The Vizier doesn't. The Vizier has to keep him in check. The Vizier has to protect him from himself sometimes. And the thing with the Vizier, as you guys probably noticed, he seems always to be a very patient and polite individual. But then there were key moments when he lost his shit and then had to reel it back in, like very quickly. He'd blow up. And then he would calm himself down because he realized he had crossed a line. And most of that was the stress and tension that was building on the vizier's shoulders because of all that he knew was happening. And probably the vizier above everybody knew everything. Nobody else knew everything. Everybody else knew parts. But he had the weight of the entire kingdom on his shoulders. Because again, not only does he have to advise the king and this, that, and the other, but he knew somehow they're going to expect me to figure out how to deal with some of this crap. You know, so I mean, he had a lot on his plate.
I will just say, for Radovan's sake, his journey from the beginning of Marks to the end of Children of Drakhar has really been about him relinquishing his view that he's the center of the universe and the most important thing.
Right.
And accepting the humility of the worlds and how it affects him. Right. I mean, he did not walk the guard that was injured and felt like, survivor's guilt to the palace because he says, like, I'm above you. He saw that guy as an equal, even though that guy wasn't even in the war.
Right.
And that was Radovan's slow evolution, I feel.
Yeah.
It took a lot of shit, a lot of fallbacks. Nothing's perfect. Life goes on. But that was Radovan's journey, is realizing, hey, I'm just a dude who has some power, and let's exercise that power for as good as you can.
Right. Well, whereas I think Kialiana, she started Celtic good and slowly drifted to Celtic neutral, and then was actually kind of sort of drifting closer towards becoming evil. But then, before she crossed that threshold, she kind of pulled back the right side of the neutral. Radovan, obviously, what alignment was Radovan when the campaign started?
It was lawful neutral.
Right.
Lawful neutral.
I think we saw Radovan borderline. Yeah. He was probably lawful neutral and very much close to the neutral part of neutral, if that makes sense. He wasn't evil, but he certainly wasn't really good. But I think Radovan is getting closer towards the end of the campaign. Radovan is like teeter-tottering almost to the good point now. So it's like, if he keeps on the way he is, we could even see Radovan become lawful good. Bloody Bible thump. I mean, it could happen. Okay, cool. So, Raisa. This campaign... So, here's one of the things I wanted to kind of point out to everybody. Raisa's character in the first campaign, at least up until the end, she had her part to play, but at the very end, when she became an element... Basically, they realized she was an element, the key element to this entire thing. They conned these guys into getting all the ingredients together and then duped them into bringing the final ingredient, Raisa, to them to sacrifice. And at that point is when they said, oh, you are unique. You are the only existence of two pure royal bloodlines. And your blood is necessary to bring... Because you are the dividing factor here, your blood is what's necessary to bring about the rise of our Chaos Goddess. That was when Raisa was like, holy crap, what? Because she had no idea at that point. And Bane had no idea at that point either. So then, at the start of this campaign, she basically had that weight on her shoulder. And then when we first met the king, Raisa has had basically a private agenda going on the entire campaign, pretty much. So I think this campaign has probably been more relevant to Raisa's change and growth than anybody else. Everybody has definitely gone through, Kia and Radovan have gone through a lot of change, but I think Raisa, it's less physical change and more emotional change for her. So Bane, how do you see Raisa? Like, where did it happen and what happened? How did she, what developed?
Well, I would say, Raisa didn't really develop much in the first campaign.
Right.
Because she was just kind of fumbling through her life, right? And she was randomly paired with these people, and she wasn't going anywhere anyways, so she went along with them, right? And then, like you said, that bombshell at the end, like, what? Right? And then, again, kind of flowing with the people and, finally getting friends for the first time in her life and being able to trust, but she still was very untrusting. Took a long time to get that. But then she learned, okay, you know what? You can depend on people, and there are good people out there, And then she gets, put in front of the king, and it's like, oh God, like, this whole like stressful thing, and he doesn't know, and she's not allowed to tell him, and then she gets sent back to her homeland where she's banished from, and she's not supposed to be there.
Right.
But then she talks to her mom, and her mom's like, you're royalty, and you are someone, and then it's the grandfather's, you're nobody, and then it's, oh, but I'm the king's daughter, and then Tadros is going, you can't say anything, and so she's just like,
just
So I think now the king, her mother, she has said, like, Raisa's development happened today. It's like, well, and Radovan, Kia, and Marlo, the pep talk before the battle when they said, you know what, tell your dad, tell him, because you are who you are, you might die, like, you have, there's no shame in that, and
right.
You at least you owe yourself that.
Well,
and so she's finally realizing, like, I kind of am, like, I am somebody,
Right. Well, and this the thing is like, that's the joy of these homebrew campaigns, right? The fact that you can create and do these things. As a DM, it's an evolving story. I write out the campaign and I write out the concept of the adventures, but I'm afforded the luxury of taking it in any bloody direction I feel is necessary to make the story good, because I'm not confined by a predetermined written campaign. So, right there, as much as I'd written the campaign itself to end either way, it can end with Drakhar winning, it can end with the king winning. It went one way, it could have gone the other, very easily could have gone the other. But this was also a huge thing, because the fact that Raisa just got publicly acknowledged for being the king's daughter is partly due to several different factors. One, the king's emotional state. He was told on the eve of battle, I'm your daughter, and he had to process that. And as he said, as much as he didn't want to process it, how can you not have that in the back of your mind, right? But he's the king. He still has to do his job, and he has to just hope that he's going to get to see Raisa again. But then he lost his son. Now, as a parent, he loses one child. Suddenly, he wants to cling to the other one that he knows that he still has. So, to hell with propriety, to hell with the consequences to the kingdom, to hell with the people's view of me. This is my daughter, damn it, and I'm going to hold her to me because I've lost a fucking son. But I've got a daughter, how dare I ignore her existence? She could die tomorrow and I've done nothing. So the human side of the king came out at that point. That was where he was a man and a father and not a king. That's why Tadros was like, no, don't do it. Because he knew what he was going to do. But the king did it anyway. Now, as you guys have seen, he is a fair king. I mean, the fact that he took all the money from the nobles and said, we're not using this to rebuild the coffers, we're using this to help the poor. You've seen him be a just king, and yes, there are some things like with the arena. You guys were all like, why the fuck does the king tolerate the arena? If he's such a good guy, why does he let that level of injustice go on? Well, again, politics, with the nobles and this, that, and the other. But at that point, he wasn't a king. At that point, he was... he was human. He was fallible. He reached out and wanted to acknowledge the fact that he had that daughter. So he did. And he pulled her to him and publicly announced that. In a way, basically saying, the cat's out the bag, so at this point it doesn't matter. We can have a bloody relationship now and screw everybody. What will be the outcome of that? Who knows? Will there be potential scandal? Probably. That's not a good thing for a king to have been ever acknowledged as being, even though his past queen was dead, he basically just said, I did commit adultery on the past king. That's a really bad thing for a king to do. On the flip side, he's 60 years old and hasn't got that long to live. What does he care at this point? He's got other things that started matter. As he becomes more aware of his own mortality, other things begin to matter. So I think that's the big aspect there. But the point being, if you had not told him, the ending would have been so different, because that wouldn't have happened. There would have been no acknowledgement. There would have been no, you're now a princess, It would have been that kind of awkward, quiet, he doesn't know, do you tell him thing. but you brought that to a forefront, and that just shows you how simple decisions can change the entire framework of the story. And I think it's important that everybody watching understands that every decision you guys make can literally take the story in such a huge different arc, as opposed to a linear, narrow path that you're forced down every step of the way. So that's.
And I just want to say
cool.
too, which is interesting on that. If you guys missed the episode, I had decided I was not going to tell the king.
Right, but then at the last minute, the other players, the other characters, talked you into it.
They convinced me.
Right,
and so I was like, well,
so let's see for Marlowe. Now, of course, Marlowe was not part of the Marks of Intrigue. So we first met Marlowe as she basically yanked off the bonds from Rochek and joined our heroes and had promised to escort Lady Harrington back to her home, and that's kind of where our heroes kind of went along with that. So Marlowe had a pretty rough time with this campaign because she died once, which is a fairly monumental thing in a young girl's life.
When she dies.
Right, you know. So, now, bearing in mind, we've still got Marlowe's backstory to do, and the fact of the matter is that we haven't done it yet doesn't matter, because there's still... The point is, when you see it, you'll get to understand some things. So, without necessarily breaking down that wall, if you don't want to, talk about Marlowe. How did Marlowe progress and change physically, emotionally, and mentally throughout this campaign in your eyes?
Well, pre-campaign, I guess you could say, before this, Marlowe had spent the past year to year and a half traveling down to this area from her home in the north, based on a prophecy, is what she was told from the elder of her temple, that was given to her to help her deal with some things that had happened that you guys will come to learn about. And obviously, if you guys watched through the episodes where Marlowe was dead, she spoke to her old mentor, Saris, and of course it has something to do with him.
Yeah, there was a good bit of information that could have been gleaned from that if people were really listening and paying attention.
So the elder of her temple sent her down into Arconis to find 3 people. To which, when she meets Kia, Radovan, and Reza, she's correct in assuming these must be the people I was sent to find. These are the people that are going to lead me for whatever it is I'm supposed to learn here, and help her deal with what had happened with her mentor. I think in the very beginning, when she met them, even though she was acting selfless, it was very much she had an alternate agenda as far as this, I have to follow these people not to help them, but because I'm supposed to get something from them. They're supposed to benefit me in some way. This is to help me.
Right, and again, there comes that point of realization that all of the characters, one way or another, good or bad, in their own way, were selfish. They all had their own private agenda going on that was bigger than what they needed to become. And that was the whole point of the Lady in White, was to get you away from that and get your head where it needs to be, and that is for the kingdom, not for you.
And given that Marlowe's not that bright, it was understanding it on multiple levels, because the way she sees it is, I'm finding them to fulfill a prophecy that's supposed to help my late mentor.
Right.
So she's still not seeing it as, I'm doing this for me. But on a certain level, of course, she still is. She doesn't tell any of them about why she... Yeah, she doesn't tell any of her new acquaintances about why she's here, or what exactly she needs from them. You know, she's just going to kind of go with the flow. Wherever they go, she's going to follow them, because these people are supposed to be my destiny. They're going to lead me to whatever it is I'm supposed to do. The more she watches them, the more they grow on her, and she starts to see them as allies and as friends. And she genuinely does want to help them. She starts seeing it as, maybe these people, I'm supposed to help them. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. But she's still seeing it in a selfish light.
Right.
When she dies, and she comes to terms with her guilt over what happened to her late mentor, and she hears Radovan come, and his voice speaking to her before she's resurrected. if you guys were there and remember this, she says, "My friends need me," when she goes to attack the guilt manifestation of her guilt to get back to the living world. She's realizes at that point when she shouts, "My friends need me," that it's no longer about her. Before that, she had like the whole crisis with the honor and everything, and it just made her see that sometimes it's not about you, it's not about your honor. Sometimes you have to sacrifice those things because it's what's good for your friends and the people that you love. So at that point, even though she still remembers the prophecy and why she was told to find these people, it's no longer, "I'm going to stay with these people because they're going to lead me to what I'm supposed to find." It's, "I genuinely want to be with these people and help these people."
Right.
And so it wasn't so much a change that everybody could see, but there was a change within Marlo as far as her actions didn't change, but the motivation behind her actions definitely changed by the end of the campaign. She was also referred to, at the very end here, she referred to the king as "my king," even though she's not from Arconis and technically he's not her king. She was very happy to have considered Arconis an ally and a friend. And so, even though she still calls the North Kingdoms her home, now she kind of feels she has a home here in Arconis too. Right. And it's okay.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, that kind of... And I think that's the thing that, you know, looking at it, the evolution of the characters going from... And these were things like aspects of the campaign that, as I'd said, certain things were pre-written for the main campaign. That was something that was added because I felt like, well, we wanted to have something good for like the Halloween episode, which we always try to do a good stream. So I knew I wanted to do that. And the Krampus movie had just come out. And I was like, you know what? The Krampus is a fun thing. I want to use this. So we created a Krampus and we put it in the game and stuff like that. But at the same time, it served the purpose that I knew I needed to do something to give the characters a reason to refocus. Because that was the whole point. And it wasn't because I felt the players needed it, but it was like, okay, for this to be believable, I'm asking these characters who basically are all in it for themselves to do this selfless stuff with no real reward. Why the hell would they? Because at that point in time, it was like, Kia, be like, please, you want me to risk my life to serve a king that I don't give a shit about? Not happening. And Marlo would have been like, you're not my bloody king. You know, I don't even live here.
Which she kind of was.
Right. So, I mean, so that was the thing. I saw that there was a need for the story to give you guys something to rally behind, a reason to shake up. So that was why I added that element, was for that purpose. So that wasn't in the original campaign, but it was necessary for these characters. So going back to how things went on. So, you guys started out having to deal for working for Lord Harrington. There was a mage thief that you come to find out was stealing the shields that were meant to go to the king. Now, you started investigating. He said you need to do this quietly, which you guys did not do. But then that's not your style. It never has been, right? And then what happened was you got a warning. Somebody somehow magically slipped a note into the serving girl's tray, and you were basically told, get your damn nose out of this, or you'll be sorry. Which led to Kia Liana enjoying a pleasant acid bath one evening. So two things there. One, so this guy utilizing basically apothecaric means created or got water, introduced an acidic agent to it, but made it to where you needed an active agent to activate it, which he put in the soap. Kia climbs in the bathtub, she gets the soap, starts scrubbing herself, and all of a sudden... So two things that happened there. First of all, Reza was the only person close enough to Kia to try to save her. And as you guys, if you were there to watch it, it pretty much almost one-shotted Kia. She was left almost dead. Knowing the amount of damage the acid was doing per round, if she'd have stayed in the bathtub for one more round, it was a foregone conclusion. Kia will basically become elf soup. That's what it will be.
Elf soup.
Elf soup. Dissolved to nothing but mushy
soup
soup floating around in the soapy water. So Raysa had to make some serious, quick thinking decisions to save Kia. So Raysa put on the spot like that. How did she feel about suddenly realizing it's all on me? Kia lives or dies in the next 5 seconds based on what I do. How did that affect Raysa mentally?
Well, zero self-confidence, Raysa basically panicked and just lucked out.
Right.
She lucked out. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, and well, really, I mean, what it was a crapshoot. You bought enough time for Radovan to get up there and heal his ass off. Now, for Kia, initially, shortly after that, for a short period of time, Kia seemed very traumatized, but she got over that trauma pretty damn quick. So, what was going through her head at that point? She was laying there as she basically, Radovan come and healed her. Obviously, there was a certain amount of immodesty going on because she was butt naked anyway, but no one was really fixating on that fact because it was like, let's be honest, you
looked really gross.
Yeah, you look disgusting and hideous. So,
yes.
I think I grabbed a robe too, and
you covered her.
But that was the thing. It was like it was very kind of graphically unpleasant for Kia. The amount of excruciating pain that she must have been in as she submerged herself in literally sulfuric acid from the waist down. Who can imagine what that would feel like to basically be flayed like that? But she laid there, and initially she was kind of traumatized. But then she got past that. So, what
Cal
went on
was freaking
there?
out too.
Right. She went from like really traumatized to, whatever. What was the reason behind that? Like, where did she find the courage to kind of pull herself together like that?
Well, when it first happened, this was when she was still kind of going down towards the evil path. And when that acid bath happened to her and she almost died, she had decided at that point, the party didn't really know, but at that point she decided that she was going to figure out a way to take care of herself with the intention of leaving the party eventually if she was going to go down this evil path, because she knew she was weak. So when she heard about like Renazin and all the magical items that they could get, she was thinking, I want to do this so I can get all those magical items for myself and leave and become whatever myself. And obviously Cal left like right after that, and that was kind of the whole changing point for her whole point of view anyway. So that's when she kind of got over like, oh wait, that was a terrible idea.
I can't shit anymore. Right.
Yeah, I shouldn't do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then basically Raysa had her first quote unquote love interest, her first crush. If everybody remembers Dietrich Kale, the apothecary, who they went to he thought he was some kind of CSI guy, really. Not that such a thing existed, but he was like so interested in being able to be part of solving the puzzle, solving the mystery. And Raysa kind of formed a little bit of an attachment to Dietrich Kale, which I found really funny because Raysa doesn't know how to have any kind of romantic... She is the socially awkward one out of the entire group. So it was really funny watching her kind of fumble around as a half-elf in her 20s, acting more like a 15-year-old because she didn't know what to do and how to behave. So for Bane, I mean, did you like, when you were role-playing that aspect, I mean, what was going through your head? I mean, was you having fun? I mean, was you enjoying that fact that you were getting to do that sort of thing with Raysa? Because that's really not what she ever gets to do, right?
Yeah, no, I loved it because Raysa was infatuated with him, and I guarantee you he had zero interest in her romantically. It was the herbalism thing, right? Like he was just passionate about his work, and the situation, you know, like the CSI thing was like exciting to him, whereas she was like, oh my god, somebody who likes something that I like, and he's excited that I'm here talking to him about it. He must be excited about me, you know, and just like this whole like it was. But it was funny. Right. She's never she like the chances of her coming by that again are very slim, you know. So it would be funny to if somebody played him, like to have an in-depth conversation with them about how the whole thing went down, because it would be so opposite.
That was funny.
Just go back now and just flaunt your princessness. And he'll marry you like that.
Yeah, hey,
guess what? I'm a princess.
How'd you like me now, bitch?
Wow.
How'd you like me now? Okay, so then it ultimately come down, you encountered this guy, and that's where you first saw the weird pallid green guys step out of the ether, and they were doing a deal with this dude. You first met the Githzeri, and then you had to deal with the Shadow, who none of you guys had ever met before, prior to this campaign. I mean, the heroes, you know, had worked alongside him. Oh, what happened there was... 1 second. Skype just... that was my... I don't know why it did that. There we go. We're good.
Oh, we hit the four-hour mark.
Good. We're good. You're still there. But that was what it is. It doesn't shut... Apparently, what I found out, it doesn't close it off now. It just minimizes to let you know, hey, you're 4 hours. So anyway, so you had to deal with him. But at this point, you now knew about the Githzeri. Now, of course, you didn't know who they were and what they were at the time. Unbeknown to you, they were a good-ish faction of the two new factions that were playing this campaign. They were the less bad of the two, right? So they come into play. So then, as the story progresses, one thing that happens is Kia basically meets 3 wood elves in a tavern. Well, you all did, but Kia went and talked to them. And they pretty much shunned the shit out of Kia Leana. They looked down on her, they were rude to her. One of them pretty much wanted to bitch slap her into the next millennium. All on the premise that they did not like the way that Kia was acting human. She was hanging out with humans. She wasn't acting appropriately in their eyes. So they were like looking down at her. So from Kia's standpoint, the 2 people that were there with Prince Scalanus, and he was a wood elven prince, not a high elf. And you can probably tell by the cloak that he was wearing, the leafy gold cloak and stuff like that. But how did that make Kia feel? Like when other elves were basically looking at her like, you're crap. What are you doing? What was going on with her?
Set fire to their faces. I don't remember what I ended up doing. Just ignoring them.
I remember Marlo stepped up.
Yeah, Marlo wanted to start a fight with them, but I think the cooler heads prevailed.
I wanted to murder them.
And it was also diffused because you then met Alton Lindenbrook, the halfling that basically sold you the information to find the lair of Renazin the Creator, right? Mm-hmm. So that pretty much happened. You found the lair of Renazin the Creator. You had gone to that town to escort Lord Harrington there. He'd continued to travel on. Now, you went off, you battled and dealt with the vicious trap-led lair of Renazin the Creator, and come back. And then you're basically... Lord Harrington comes back in, he's injured, he's hurt. He tells you they were ambushed by these guys, these grey dudes, or these green dudes. And so you guys went to investigate, and you found the cart that had been upturned, dead bodies everywhere, and you found the sword with the note. And I think that was when you guys first realized that there was possibly more than one faction at work here.
It was Marlo who mentioned it.
Right. So, with that being said, you take the sword, and you're heading eastward towards the capital city. And you got all these magical items, so you decided you needed some help. You went to this little way-by town, Dardenweald, and was introduced to Perelian, who is a old wizard that basically had palsy, but in a magical curse form. If you remember, he was doing this the entire time.
I liked him.
And I was going to say, and Radovan befriended him, right? Now,
yes, I did.
So here's some things that I want to kind of go over, and this highlights some of the character of Kia, how she had altered. So here is a guy that you guys, and I don't know if you realize this and have ever thought about it this way, you guys sought him out You went and found him at his house. And he's standing there and he's got palsy, and he says that he would help you if he was able to cast any spells, but because he's got the shakes so bad, he can't. So Radovan takes it upon himself to try to cure this guy of this. Now, there was an instant where everybody else left, and Kia was left alone with Pirellian. Now, if you haven't seen this, episode 17, part 2, 3 minutes 12 seconds is where the actual dialogue takes place.
I don't remember.
And I'm not going to show it because I'm just going to tell you what happened for time's sake. But by all means, go check this out. So Kia looks at Pirellian when no one else is around and says, Pirellian, are you faking this? And he's like, faking what? You know, your movements, your story, everything. And he's like, no. She says, and he says, why would you ask me that? She says, well, I've got a terrible habit of running into liars.
True, it's
so
true.
So then he looks at her and says, well, if you don't think I'm telling the truth, sod off then. Like, wait a second, you came to me! Like, you know, what are you're questioning me? You sought me out. You're asking me for help. And now I'm, like, supposed to defend I have to defend myself for the right to help you? I found that so funny. Because Kia was instantly on the attack of this guy. It's like, wait a minute, you found him! It's not like he didn't come to you and say, help us. It was like, yeah, you know what, you're full of shit. But that showed you how jaded Kia Liana had become. It's like, I trust nobody at this point. Who can blame her? After all, she had just been basically dumped in an acid bath recently. But I found that really funny. As I said, episode 17, part 2, 3 minutes 12 in. Go check it out, because the dialogue itself is hilarious.
Don't go check it out.
Yeah, definitely
it's worth checking
it out. It is funny.
I love it.
But then Radovan cures him.
Yes.
Finally, he tries twice. Remove enchantment, I believe, and then finally remove curse actually succeeds. So he kind of won over a friend here. And as I said, and then shortly after that is when we encountered the Lady in White and the Krampus. And we've already kind of explained through previous questions what that was about, why that happened. So finally, they head off to Iridian. But before they get there, at the little village of Wellesley, they find out that a town north, Estarden, had been basically ransacked and burnt to the ground. And our heroes decided this is something the king needed to hear, right? So they took this information and ran to the town. Now, before they get into the city of Iridian, another interesting thing happens. So they walk into the Stagger Inn, which incidentally was named by Hammer Time. In the Stagger Inn, they encounter the Classeran sisters, who convince Marlowe to help their foreign friend and save his life because he's not fit to fight in the arena, which she did. Now, I think Radovan, for one, was like, no, this smells, no, I don't like this. But Marlowe still had this level of, I don't want to say naivety, but she still was like wanting to do the right thing. She wanted to help. And also, it doesn't hurt the fact that Marlowe loves to fight. And here's an opportunity.
Naivety was a pretty good word.
Right.
She trusted.
MC, thanks for resubscribing. Take your pants off, buddy.
Their friend.
Give it
Thanks, MC.
Right, yeah. And at that time, that was one. The other things with Marlowe is she was pretty much out to fight anything that moved. You know, and that changed later as well. She started realizing that not every fight was meant for her. Not every fight was something she could win. But so once she realized, I mean, Marlowe went into the arena. She survived. She got duped. Before she knows it, she's fighting the arena champion. And in fact, I think at one point was 4 hit points away from death.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
So she almost died then as well. Marlowe did a lot of almost dying and one successfully dying. So well done. You died more than anybody. Congratulations. But then, of course, there's this moment in the arena as Marlowe stands across from the arena champion, and they have their own private dialogue that no one else is aware of, where he basically says, I didn't want to fight you, I refuse, but have threatened my family. If I don't fight you, they're going to pay. So I'm sorry, but I don't have a choice. I hope you understand. Because he honestly thought he was going to kill Marlowe, and he bloody nearly did. But at that point, Marlowe saw him differently. He wasn't an opponent for her anymore, right? I mean, what was going through her head then? Because up until that point, she's like nervous because she's fighting this badass dude. But she's expecting him to be all, I'm going to kick your ass and stuff. And then he's totally not that way.
Well, where she comes from, it's more like if you're going to fight somebody or have like a match with them, it's not usually to the death, for one. And two, it's because, you're wanting to test yourself against a good challenge, a worthy opponent. And when she comes into this fight seeing he doesn't want to fight, he's being forced to fight her, she didn't want to fight anymore either.
Right.
And she really hated the fact that his family was being threatened. And, of course, she doesn't know why she's suddenly having to fight ranked fighters now anyway, so she's just really aware that she's being used, and there's stuff that she doesn't understand going on behind the scenes. It's not just about helping some guy who got put into this just because he owed a debt anymore. Now there's something like more at work here.
Gotcha. Well, of course, Marlowe did win, and then we had the controversial aspect that happened, because Marlowe and Radovan, they're walking up to get Marlowe's release paper signed by the leader of the gladiatorial arena, and Marlowe just walks straight up to him and with no warning, with no dialogue, just decks the guy, like bam, lays him out, busts his lip wide open, and is promptly arrested for striking nobility, and ends up being arrested, thrown in jail again, and then they have to go and have a court case, which wasn't good. But at that point, our other heroes had met with the king and the king's vizier, and had proven that they are valuable. So the king pardoned Marlowe's incidents, and got her out of there. And our heroes went and, did all of that. And we got Marlowe back. But this is where things kind of started, because already immediately they were sort of kind of beholding to the king now. Because he just did something, got her out of jail, and it never was really mentioned, but it was kind of there. Like, okay, well, guess what? I just saved your friend's ass, so, incidentally, I need things done for me, too. But initially, it wasn't that the king asked you to do anything. You'd heard about... There was this situation where one of the king's knights had gone away on a quest and had come back changed and different. And slowly over time, he become malcontent and wicked and, possessed. And he'd gone into the forest and had started butchering people. And the knights had gone after him, and every time they went near him, it was like he knew everything they were thinking, and they were not able to take him down. The vizier had figured out, well, it's because he has a spiritual link to the knights, he can read all their minds. Somebody other than the knights have got to deal with this dude. In comes the players, right? So they were sent to take care of this. They volunteered. Well, the knight isn't the story here. This is when they first met one of your guys' favorite characters, I guess, and I know chat's favorite characters. This is where you guys first met Lana and Spirit. Radovan, everybody had this little weird kind of comic relief dialogue with Lana. Reza gave her a climbing spike, which she thought was cool, and she was using it as a dagger. Marlowe had given her her scarf, and she was wearing that draped around her to try to look like Marlowe. And Radovan gave her a cooking pot, which she promptly stuck on her head so that she looked like Radovan, thinking it was a helmet. And the next time they met her, she still had all of this stuff. So, what were your guys' initial opinions of Lana? What did you see there? Did you see a annoying, pointless little sprite? Did you see potentially something of great power? Did you see... I mean, who knows? What was your opinions of her individually? Let's start.
As
we'll
players
go
or
Marlowe.
characters?
Well, obviously for characters' points of view. So, Marlo, what when you saw Lana and interacted with her for the first time, what did you see? Who was she to you?
A child.
Right, basically like a kid. Okay.
That's how Marlo talked to her like she was a little child that she had just found. So. And
she kind of sort of acted that way for sure. Raisa, what was her opinion or her view on Lana?
I would agree with Marlo, the child, but Raisa thought that she was important.
Right, so she knew there was something about Lana.
Yes.
Right.
And she was actually scared of her.
Right. Well, having a ginormous leopard as a pet, and what about now Kia? Lana did not care for you that much, but more because Spirit didn't care for you. Spirit basically said you smelted bad. Like you could sense the badness growing inside you, like a sick cancer.
Did I forget the deodorant? But what I was more intrigued was Spirit, because she had this familiar type creature.
Right.
But obviously Spirit was really powerful, so she was intrigued, like, who could Lana be with this crazy, cool familiar? And I want it.
And I want it. Well, you could have ridden Spirit and wouldn't have broken his back, so it makes perfect sense. And Radovan, well, how did he view Lana?
It's really such a small, seemingly innocuous character can be in control of such a great, fearsome beast is kind of what set Radovan on edge. He was definitely scared. He was definitely nervous. He's not one for nature. So he obviously attributed a lot of power to Lana that she may or may not have even had. But so that's why he tried everything to pacify any potential problems.
Gotcha.
Like, why poke the beast in a way,
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
He was terrified, and he didn't know what was going on, but he was going to chalk it off, trying to be charming and diplomatic.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then after that, basically, you guys, Lana was not really important at that point. She was just an encounter, someone to meet, someone to talk to. Long story short, after that, you go on the mission. You are sent north. You are teleported to Rockhelm, where you have your very first encounter with a member of the Scarblood tribe, or any of the tribesmen. If you remember, in that tavern, there was a massive brutish barbarian. There was a kind of strange, dark-skinned individual, and then there was a woman that was chained up. Well, that was, as we rightly realized, the woman was a captured member of the Harrier tribe. There was one member of the Harns Plains tribe, which are like the ones that were closer to the Native American Indians, and then the Scarblood. And the whole point was this guy wanted to join with the Scarbloods. Now, Marlo went and started staring this guy down. Lesson to be learnt there, kids. Don't go up to the big brute in the tavern and glare at him for 5 minutes and not expect him to do something unpleasant.
But of course, this is back when Marlo was wanting a worthy fight, and she's like, he would probably be a good opponent.
So he literally just belted Marlo, brutal strike. And Marlo wanted to duke it out with that guy right then and there, but the other players convinced you that this was more important than your quote-unquote selfish desire to fight this dude. Once again, highlighting the seemingly not selfish yet selfish sides to all of the characters. And Marlo really struggled with that. I know that was a huge problem for her. So elaborate on that for us. What was the big struggle? And ultimately, in this instance, Marlo didn't seek to change that. She didn't seek to go around. Later on, we saw a different tactic where the Clesteran sisters were concerned. But in this instance, she did walk away. But I know she didn't want to. What was going on with her at that point?
Well, she was at this point still getting very angry because she came down here to fulfill this prophecy. She found the 3 people she was supposed to find, and she was at a loss. She was just tagging along with them, just doing whatever they said to do or whatever they wanted to do, and she didn't feel like she was getting anywhere or accomplishing what she was sent down here to accomplish. Meanwhile, she gets this chance to challenge herself, which is what she really loves to do.
Right.
And she's basically told by 3 people that she is looking at saying they don't understand me, they don't understand where I come from, they don't understand, how important this is to me. Basically seeing herself as a victim.
Right.
In a
way.
But
of course they really didn't know how important that was to you, because they don't have an understanding of Marlo at that point.
Nope.
Yes, but at the same time, Marlo is just ready to blame them for this instead of realizing, well, they don't understand where I'm from or anything about me because I've never told them. And they've never been to where I'm from, so why would they understand? And at the same time, Marlo's obviously is not understanding their way of life either, granted when she just punched a noble's face in. And how she doesn't believe that these nobles deserve any respect, because as far as she knows, what did they do to deserve this respect?
Right, I gotcha.
Because from where Marlo comes from, if these people are held in high regard, it's because they accomplished something great where she's from. And everybody knows about it. It's not just they were born this way.
Right.
So she's incredibly annoyed with all this. She's getting frustrated with the people that she feels like are supposed to be leading her somewhere, but from her knowledge, she's just following them around, doing things they don't necessarily want to do. For example, in Renazin's lair, she was always the one to step up and do things that could be dangerous. Mostly because she was just ready to progress. She was like, okay, rather than us taking our time and going through this, let's just jump in and get it over with, because I want to see where it is I'm supposed to be going with you guys. At this point, when this comes up and she's told, this is more important than you fighting, she's the whole time is thinking about her honor and a past event that you guys will come to know a little better that has to do with her former mentor.
Gotcha.
And it's very much in depth with honor and how she believes and how her people believe. It was just something that she had to learn about and
There's
get over.
There's a lot of cultural misunderstandings on both sides there.
And also that it was very uncharacteristic for her to snap at the group like she did in that part where she got drunk and basically told them, none of you understand anything about me, I can never go home, flipped them off and went and fell asleep on a table.
Right.
It's very much unlike Marlo, but she was incredibly angry because she felt like her personal quest was going nowhere.
Right. Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead.
I was just saying, I messaged Gorbat and said I wanted to jump in on this, and I just wanted to comment on Raisa's part in that little interaction, because Raisa did something kind of uncharacteristic for herself as well. She got up and she berated Marlo.
Right.
And she basically, just said, sit the fuck down now, and, and Raisa doesn't do that.
Right.
But I think she was afraid for Marlo. And she was also afraid for everybody else, because she thought that if Marlo initiated that it would bring, Marlo would die, and then Radvan, Raisa, and Kia would be in trouble, and they had a very important objective at that time and place.
Right.
So I feel like Raisa felt really guilty afterwards, but she also had, this glimmer that was we have a mission, it's from the king, how dare you get your butt in that chair and behave, kind of thing. And it was kind of a moment for Raisa where she was I think she almost scared herself. She was like, whoa.
Alrighty. Well, cool.
I think Marlo was also angry at that point because she knew what Raisa was telling her was right. She knew that she was right. That's not what she wanted to do.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll let Bane needs to shudder just for a second, so let me go ahead and shudder her. Alright, so after that, you guys you travel into the Harns Plains tribe. There's an awkward encounter with the Harns Plainsmen, and you get assigned a guide. The guide, initially unbeknown to you, is the chieftain's daughter. Now, a couple of things happened interesting where she's concerned. The first of which is when she became in awe of Radovan's divinity and started believing him to be some kind of god. She had only ever seen basic tribal magic before, and when Radovan summoned a 10-foot-long banquet table with all kinds of food out of thin air, she was just like, oh Oh my god! Blown away. So, how did it feel to basically be idolized in that respect from Radovan's point of view?
Well, so one interesting thing to say is I created water in the desert in the Marks of Intrigue.
Right.
And was immediately afforded and given permission to do whatever. Yeah, get your camels, go. You give us water. That's like that's a horribly awesome thing.
Right.
And Radovan did that to propel himself and his view and his diplomacy. When he did it to poor Shara, right? Shara.
Yeah.
He was
Nobody remembers her name.
I know, people are like, rip Shauna. It's like Shara, okay.
Poor Shara.
He did it for her. It's twofold. He did it for he was trying to be selfless. He was trying to be thankful and appreciative.
Right.
Without being considerate to the ramifications. And Marlo chewed him out for that. She was like, this is stuff she's never seen before. What the fuck are you thinking? And
Marlo was, again, angry because she was feeling like you guys didn't understand her, and she sees Shara and she sees herself. So
right. That was another moment where Radovan definitely started realizing, holy shit, I have abilities. I have gifts that are not always understood, not always welcome, and not always seen on the same level that I'm intending them to be seen on. So It was definitely a moment of humility for him. He became more humble because when Marlo railed into him with that speech and that, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're being inconsiderate and above it.
Right.
That was a true thing that he didn't see in himself.
Gotcha.
There was another moment farther on, which I guess we'll get to, where it happened again with the Verdant Prince, but he felt really horrible that she was so idolized of him. And it was only exacerbated because of what fucking Kia did.
Well, speaking of, yes. So let's look at that. So Kia, Kappa, played on that. She was mischievous. She started getting, she was trying to magnify Shara's views in that respect. I remember the one instance when Radovan was over by trying to rest, leaning up against a tree. Kia told Shara that if she truly wanted to help Radovan and show him how much she cared about him, she would go and polish his boots, because he liked it when his followers did that. So of course she goes over there and starts doing this, and Radovan's like, "What are you doing? Stop!" So she's like, "Oh my God, I've offended you," and she's, "I'm not worthy, please forgive me." And Kia's over there going, laughing quietly to herself.
Now, I will just say that as a player, that was the evilest thing I've ever seen Jane as a player do. Really? Even trying to fireball the Wendigo and the dwarf was in the path, was not the same. That was truly evil. That was as evil as I've seen Jane get with Kia.
Right.
In my opinion. And I was like, holy shit, you don't do that to poor characters. I mean, that's too far. Yeah, but I just will say that's what I thought. I was like, damn, she's going dark. And
yeah. Hammer Time just pulled up a quote that's kind of going to be apt when we get to this next part here. But you made your way through the forest with her,
yes.
And you encounter the Verdant Prince. Now, again, we're talking about a powerful Fey Prince that is pissed because somebody's chopping down his trees. So the first run-in with him results, and I won't elaborate too much on that because we've kind of talked about him already as well, but it results in him accusing you guys of being reckless to where the forest is concerned, and he's blaming all humanity for whoever's cutting, he's blaming you because you're a representative of humanity for destroying his forest. And he basically said, well, okay, if you're not responsible, then, and you mean the forest no harm, swear to it. Take an oath. Which Marlo was going to do. But nobody else was willing to do that. So Marlo said, well, I'm standing with them, so if they're not doing it, I'm not doing it, right? So that's kind of what happened there. And all hell broke loose, and Kia burnt down the southern half of an entire forest and thoroughly created a powerful enemy in this Verdant Prince.
I do want to say that was the second moment that we were just talking about with Radovan, when the Verdant Prince mistook Radovan and the party, Kia and Reza and Marlowe, for being responsible for the destruction and blaming all of humanity. That was like the first clue in of racism, not, against Radovan,
right,
which completely surprised him. He was like, whoa.
Of the thing. Like, wait a minute, I do this to other people.
I do this to the elves. So that was the second thing. Also, I just want to point out that the decision to stand together was kind of mirrored in the second encounter with the Verdant Prince, where it was to not be together, which I thought was very interesting. The way those two, Marlowe's like, I stand with them, we're together. And then when Kia's about to get judged, everyone's like, no, we're going to be separate. And Radovan had to kind of be overruled about being together. Right. I think that's pretty cool.
Well,
we were kind of standing together and standing apart, if that makes
sense. Initially, Marlowe really went one way, but then Kia was insistent, so I think Marlowe then said, well, okay, I'll honor Kia's wishes.
Right.
So it was kind of still togetherness, but in a different standpoint. But anyway, surviving that encounter, you make your way to the top of the cliff, where you see, once again, the Githzari spying on something down the cliff. You go invisible, wait for them to disappear, and then creep up to see what it was. So for the first time, you guys basically see, you look down there and, oh my God, what is this? And there's this army amassing, and then you see Drakhar and all of his minions, and he takes to the air on a frigging dragon. So, as that's going on, when you see that, what went through all the characters' heads at that point? Like, there's this new realization about what exactly is going on. This is the first time that you guys have realized this is more than just a handful of weird little dudes stealing shields and doing odd things. There's something crazy going on here. And you basically heard Drakhar give a speech to his troops that they were going to destroy the kingdom, they were going to take it, that they were going to make this their new home. What goes through everybody's heads at that point? We'll go in the opposite order this time. So Radovan, what went through Radovan's head first? Fuck this, I'm out. Pretty much, right? That says it all.
Absolute terror.
He was terrified. So Reza, how did she feel about seeing this army of seemingly powerful alien creatures forming up to attack the kingdom that you were part of?
Pretty freaking similar. Or actually, I think it was more the lines that we're fucked.
Right.
So despair.
I'm noticing a general trend here, guys. Kia Liana, how did she feel?
Yeah, it was like shit, fuck, and then that was pretty much it.
And then of course Marlowe, what did she feel like? Oh, goody, shit fight. I don't know.
I do believe Marlowe's exact words at the end of that episode were, "I'm gonna get to fight a dragon."
Right. And you did get to fight a dragon.
But that just shows you that Marlowe didn't really get what was coming up.
Right.
It was just, I'm going to fight a dragon. Yeah.
So I'm going to take this opportunity.
People are going to die.
To kind of go back and address something I've said in the past about the use of monsters and NPCs, right? Now, everybody has their own DMing style. I am a very conservative DM when it comes to the use of creatures and monsters. I believe that fantastical creatures should be rare. They should be fantastical. When you meet a dragon, you should shit your pants. You should be in awe. There shouldn't be something that you guys have met a dozen times and it's like, oh, a dragon, whatever. So when you guys first saw that, knowing how I generally do stuff, up until that point, I think you guys in one campaign, you fought a hydra. Another campaign, you fought a wyvern. Neither one of those are on the level of an adult dragon. So from the player's perspective, when I basically went, yep, it's a fucking dragon. How did you feel as players at that point?
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
I was going to say, when that epic scene was unfolding, and you were explaining it, and you were telling us, and
your camera crapped out, didn't it? or something.
The voice crapped out.
Right.
So all I heard was you see Drakhar and blah blah blah, and then didn't hear, and then you were like, and the army blah blah blah, and then I think I heard like dragon, and I was like, okay, a dragon, and I don't know a lot. I've never fought a dragon in D&D,
right.
So I'm still learning the monster scale and everything, but I missed the epic moment. So it was like, what did he say? I think I typed to Shag, and I'm like, did he say? What did he say? And I think you didn't hear either, did you, Shagget?
Some words were missed out. But
yeah.
The sheer fact that Drakhar fucking levitated, above his army, and was like, "What's up, guys?" and then straddled the dragon, and you could see that there was a dragon on the icon screen. It was enough for me. I mean, but I was like, okay, this shit just got real. As a player, I was like.
I was so excited.
Thanks for the follow, buddy.
I was so excited.
Right.
It was a very awesome moment.
Well, and the point was, of course, leading up to the battle, you had no idea how many were coming. I mean, could be 1, could be 10, could be 20. Who knew, right? But yeah, so then you guys run. And you've got to get back, and you've got to deliver the information, and you find a secret path, because you don't want to go back through the forest, because you're really not interested in messing with the Verdant Prince, and you can't go that way, because there's an army. So Shara informs you of this little tunnel that she knows through the mountain pass to get out on the other side of the forest to safety. And you guys go down there, and you have a run-in with some cave trolls, some very big cave trolls. And that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is... going back to Hammer's quote that he quoted just a little while ago, Shara basically got her arms ripped off by the troll. And the quote was, "Your healing knowledge tells you she's probably not alive with her arms ripped off." So, you basically lost Shara. Now, you take Shara's body and her arms, and you're forced to go back. Now, you chose, and I will point out, chose to go back to the Harn Plains tribe and fess up. Whereas you could have just said, screw it, ignore them, just head to Rockhelm. So, what do you, and this is just a general question, do you guys feel that the encounter, the Krampus event, the wake-up call, the realization of stop being so damn selfish, you bastards, did that have anything to do with your decision to go and hand over the dead princess, or the dead tribe, the tribal princess, and say, look, we did this? Or if it wasn't that, what was your motivation for choosing to do that, knowing that potentially he could have lost his mind and killed you all?
Marlo felt awful. She felt like it could have been prevented. Knowing that trolls regenerate, she felt like it was a pointless death. Right. And she also had great respect for the tribe's people, because with her mindset as far as like, these nobles that she's met up to this point were born nobles, they didn't earn it, but she sees these great warriors and she thinks these are the type of people that deserve respect. And then we just killed one of them. So she felt really awful.
Right. Radovan.
I will say that Radovan, it was the honorable thing to do. It was the legit thing to do. The Krampus thing really did help with that. But it also was the notion that these are tribes people. They encounter dangerous things all the time. They live a hard life. So, of course, you can't honestly expect everyone to be okay all the time.
Right.
So it would be unfair or not right to try to skirt the issue and hide the body and be like, oh, it's all good. Let's, we're more important. It was it was an equalizing moment for him where he was like, these guys deserve to know, and they should know. And he also felt, like Marlo did, super fucking guilty. Very guilty.
Right. Now, Raisa, what was her motivation for it? Because I think she probably had slightly different motivations.
Yeah, Raisa actually really liked Shara a lot. Right. She had a lot of respect for her. She hated the fact that she was afraid of Radovan. Or on any of them, for that matter, because in Raisa's mind, they were just equals, right?
Right.
And in Raisa's mind, there was no choice. Like, there was no, oh, maybe we shouldn't go back. It was, no, this is what we need to do. And I don't think Radovan would have stood for anything other than that.
Gotcha. And
I really
finally, Kia.
At that point, Kia was on her 4 Cal kick, so she was trying to do good deeds, you know, to try to get Cal back. So she thought this was what Cal would have wanted.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you get back, you explain the circumstance, and now you're basically appointed emissaries, diplomats, whether you like it or not. And you are sent to the east, to a flooded area where the river had been circumnavigated by a cataclysmic event. A huge meteor struck the ground and flooded out an area, and there was an abandoned town. And the Vizier Tadros had done some scrying and told you that he thought that the Githzerai, which you guys had now realized were opposed to the Githyanki, had holed up somewhere down there, and he believed it was one of 2 places, one of which was an abandoned church. And you guys were sent to deal with that. Now, Phoenix, thanks for the follow. On the way to there was when we had a bad thing happen. A giant, I'm just going to call it a giant lobster creature, just for argument, so everyone knows what we're talking about, basically crushed Marlowe to death and killed your monk. So, right there was pretty cataclysmic, because one of the players has died. While our heroes are, well, there's nothing we can do for her right now, so they're carrying her body and trying to find the Githzerai to try to somehow convince them to help. Marlowe is off in the spirit world somewhere.
Mind you, she almost died earlier that day. And so...
With the Clarence sisters, yes. Gotta love it.
Right, yeah.
So I'm just thinking...
So first of all, we saw Marlowe in the spirit world talking to her mentor, and there was a lot of kind of some spoilery stuff going on there, because there's a lot of things that were not truly explained but hinted at a lot of her backstory. And ultimately, it resulted in her having to fight some kind of demonic samurai entity in order to be able to get back to the spirit world. But this was kind of... really, that entity was a manifestation of Marlowe's own built-up fears, her own challenges, her own problems. It's like you've got to overcome these to come back. It was kind of a spiritual, symbolic thing more than anything else. So ultimately, Marlowe is brought back. So what did Marlowe, at that point, where's the fundamental change for Marlowe? Because obviously she's dead. And when she comes back, she has a little bit of a different view, a little bit of a different philosophy on this whole fight, if it moves, fight it thing. So what kind of happened to her during that time?
Well, she realized that she was still really angry over what happened to her mentor. She still carried a lot of guilt, but she had to realize that she can't change that.
Right.
She also realized that when she was coming back, because she thought, my friends are calling me, they need me, she realized maybe she's not being misunderstood and used as much as she thinks. And also the fact that, well, her motivations changed. It's not all about what can Kia, Radovan, and Risa do for me. Now it's, what am I going to do to help them? They need help, and that's what I'm here for.
Right.
Instead of I'm being sent down here because there's something I need, was maybe I'm being sent down here because they need help. So she became more selfless waking up, but she also grew incredibly pissed off when she talked to the Vizier again. Mainly because she was feeling incredibly used.
Right. And I guess he made her feel guilty, even that wasn't really what his intent was, but it was like, when he was like, well, I had other plans for this, but hey, with the diamond.
Yeah, she was incredibly angry after that because she was thinking it made her angry because she fought her way through her own guilt to come back.
And then he was like, oh, here, have a big old helping of guilt on top of that.
Just to be made to feel guilty again. And she was obviously thinking, if I hadn't come back, then maybe they would all stand a better chance against the war. What if that was what I was sent down here to do? Or,
right.
She was just so unsure of everything. Gotcha. And she felt really bad when she heard all of that. So,
well, while that was all going on, our heroes were involved in meeting a small unit of Githzari and an interesting diplomatic discussion. The key event in that is which Radovan just voluntarily offers up his prized possession, which is that big gold magic shield of his. Like, there was really no hint that it was necessary. From Radovan's point of view, he's got this shield. It means a lot to him.
Yes.
And yet, seemingly, he was just like, look, just to show you that we're here in good faith, have this. Just give it away. Which, first of all, I would say is an incredibly non-metagamey thing to do. So I thought it was a great thing to do that, because I know a lot of players would have been like, no, this is my magic item. I'm not getting rid of this, no matter what. So why did Radovan do it? What was his reasoning behind it? Because, he could have done a lot of things to show good faith without giving away his prized possession. But he went to the extreme. There's nothing you could have given that was more valuable than that at that time.
Well, it really all comes down to what Radovan Rainier is in the world for and to do. He was never in the world to acquire all the items, to gain power through itemization. Items are useful, they're tools. Some of them are really good, some of them are really shit. Some of them he doesn't even know are magical. 25 gold. To him, these things, these creatures, were after shields. His shield was something special, something magical, something awesome. So it's like the perfect gesture to try to get them to side with the party and the king.
See, given the fact realized that. See,
you didn't realize that?
Well, I never thought about the shield tie-in. I knew you gave it because it was like, hey.
Oh no, it was all about the shields. That's what Radovan thought. Like, these things were after shields. And
see, I missed that part. I missed that. I was like, okay, he's giving this away because it's like, this is my most prized possession here. I'm giving it to you freely. Obviously, we're here in good faith. The fact that it was a shield, specifically the fact that it was a shield, I missed that point.
I think that
wasn't it the really other group that was after the shields, though?
The Githzari.
No, it was them. The Githzari. The first ones you met, that was them. Because they knew that Drakhar's army had those powerful swords. They felt like they needed something to defend themselves against that. Because bear in mind, at this point, they haven't joined they're not helping you guys. They think they're in on this on their own. So they were like, we need shields. Because they don't use shields, typically. They don't have them. But they knew they couldn't stand up against Drakhar's forces, against those weapons that they have, without something to defend themselves. So that was their motivation. That's why they wanted the shields. So,
and that Radovan was being as diplomatic as possible, and that was the best way to do it.
As I said, that's why I like hearing this stuff, and that's why it's good to talk, and I didn't realize that either. The fact that it was a shield makes it all the more of a meaningful thought process.
It's poetry.
Right? So you guys, you did that.
Yes.
Then you went back and you brought Marlowe back, and you were remarkably successful, and I don't think even the King of the Vizier expected you to be. They thought that was a futile effort, but hey, you know what? If you somehow convinced the king, or if you convinced the head of a tribe, hey, we're responsible for your daughter's death, and somehow you still talked your way out of not getting your heads cut off, he was like, well, they've obviously got a gift for the gab. Well, then, when you successfully come back from that, he says, go to the High Elves and beseech them for help. Now, this is where things got interesting, because this is where the racer card got played. And when I say the racer card got played, it was like you're sitting there, you're playing blackjack, and you got 20, and you look at the dealer and you go, hit me! And the dealer turns over a king. And you're like, why did I do that? I had 20! And that was kind of the thing. It was like, I think Racer, from the get-go, was like, I don't need to be there. This is a bad idea. Don't take me. But you took her.
I don't think any of us understood
to the magnitude of just how bad it was, right?
We didn't understand how much Race's grandfather would get upset over that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that no one except Raisa actually knew that hostility was going to be that way. I mean, I don't even think Radovan knew that Raisa was a way of saying wrong. I mean, a lot of that was still hidden in Race's backstory.
Well, and that's the thing is,
So why wouldn't she? It's like, it's a human thing. Like, you meet, you'll work it out. And elves are different. It doesn't work that way with elves.
Well,
which I tried to explain.
And it just didn't work. It's true.
She definitely did. But I think that's the thing
attitude toward Raisa changed then, because Marlo up until this point was feeling like they never listened to me, and then they straight up didn't listen to Raisa, and it turned out the way she did. It did. So she felt a change. She was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty bad.
Right. But yeah, so I mean that went disastrous. You barely got out of there with your lives, because the king wanted to punish you all for it, but Race's mommy basically bailed you out. But again, you kind of got to see how this is a race, these elves, this is a race of people that live potentially for thousands of years. This is a king that's 1,800 years old. His view of the world around is so different than yours could ever hope to be. Even though Kia is an elf, she's 130-something. She's still a child in elven terms, right? It's like, I don't think it's possible for your characters to truly understand his point of view, because you can't. But
I still think elves are dicks.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying.
You're a dick.
That's right. I mean, you can see why humans think that. But again, they are a proud people. They have... When you live for so long, things can take more time. They think things through more. Nothing is done compulsively. They're processing. And as Race's mother said to her in the tonight, humans never cease to amaze her. They burn so brightly for such a short period of time, and then they're gone. Like, that's an enigma to them. So it's not that the High Elves look down on humans. In some ways, they envy them. But they also know that humans will never achieve a level of enlightenment or knowledge that they have. Which is interesting from a roleplay standpoint, because if you're playing an elf with an intelligence of 18 or a wisdom of 18, think what you would know in comparison, if you're an older elf, what you would know in comparison to a human or another race with the same wisdom of 18. You've been alive for 500 years. What do you know versus what someone been alive for 30 years knows? But anyway, that ended up disastrously. Failed diplomacy. And then you guys came back, and Marlo insisted that you guys should help this girl find her missing friend. You went and investigated. You initially were against that idea as well. Radovan was like, no, I don't like this. But you did it again. Went along with it, trusting the individuals as decent people tend to do.
Dumbass to do. All the time.
And lo and behold, it turns out that the person that you're working for is a demon who is owed a soul. And that the wizard that he basically is convincing you guys is a piece of shit, and he's a bastard, and he's an asshole, and he's trapped. He's stolen a gem that doesn't belong to him, and it belonged to my friend. And you go in there and kill the guy, only to find out that the guy was actually doing a decent thing, and he had, at the point of death, had drawn his friend into this soul gem to protect his soul from being taken by the demon. And you guys broke it and destroyed it and allowed the soul out. And then the demon pops up and it's like, thanks guys, appreciate the help. And then this dialogue happens between Kia and the demon where he starts trying to entice her. Well, hey, you know, I can help y'all too. I can be on your side. And for a moment there, it really looked like Kia might go along with it. So, was Kia ever really considering going along with it and making a pact, selling her soul to this demon? Or was it more just, was she just being a dick to the demon because she could be?
This is the truth. She knew from the very start when this demon offered her, she knew she was not taking this deal.
Right.
But she thought she'd play it up to try to get more information to see if he would actually go to the other side, how honest he was.
Right.
She knew that it would definitely, at that point, her new goal was to keep Radovan alive more so than she cared about doing good deeds for Cal. So she realized this would be a really terrible move for everybody if she would actually
generally pacts with the devil and demons are not a good thing.
Nice.
So there
the
we
red
go.
feather, D-ball, she was going to give that to Cal as a toy. Put it on a little stick with a string.
That's kind of sinister in a weird, twisted way.
I know.
So then you guys had to find and track down a Githyanki infiltrator. There was that Githyanki witch, which you dealt with her. And then, desperate, you decided, well, Kia come up with the idea, we should go and ask Lana for help. So you went and you started talking to Lana, once again in the forest, only to find out that Lana and the Veridon Prince are kind of sort of come from the same place, and Lana is beholding to the Veridon Prince. And when she eavesdrops you guys talking about you're the ones responsible for the burning down the forest, Lana is pissed. And
Whoops.
At that point, you guys had this choice of either telling her, well, just go ask your friends to help us, or no, let's come clean. Let's face what we've done wrong with the Veridon Prince and see how this pans out. That curveballed me out the wazoo. I did not see that coming. That entire episode, as we said before, was 100% improv. As we were talking, I'm grabbing icons and dropping them in place, getting ready to hold this Veridon court, because this is not what I had planned. Because quite honestly, I did not see in any world that you guys would fess up and face justice when you didn't need to, and technically in your world didn't have to. But you chose to.
And I will say, a lot of people said that was one of their favorite episodes of Children of Drakhar. And the role play was top notch. The court was a legit
and it just
CSI.
goes to show you from a DM perspective and from a player's perspective that sometimes the off-the-cuff stuff can be the best. Because it's so unpredetermined. It was one of my
favorite episodes by far.
Yeah.
Just because
it flowed really, really well.
We didn't change a single map. Like, once we were on that map, we stayed there. And it was strictly roleplay. None of our characters moved. None of our characters attacked each other. It was just strict battle of the wits with words.
Right, and that's awesome. Right. It was awesome. But ultimately, when you chose to do that, so initially your view on the Veridon Prince was from the first encounter to the second encounter. How did your views change? With the Veridon Prince, because I think initially you guys just saw him as an evil son of a bitch, right? Just an asshole.
Pretty much.
Now, in the second half of things, I'm not going to say he wasn't an asshole, but
or evil. He probably was evil.
He definitely, I think, did a few things that kind of surprised you guys. The way he handled the court.
Yeah, because he was so unfair when he first met us.
Right.
Yeah, it was perceived to be unfair, right? I mean. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he's being fair, even though he did kill 6 sprites innocently.
Right.
Except for the one who
that was so funny.
One sprite speaks out of turn and 6 of them die.
Right, yep.
It's take it, bitches. The sprites were innocent, but okay.
So let's talk about that. So this is again, goes back to when I create an NPC, I don't just create an NPC on paper. I try to imagine who the NPC is, when I'm giving you the encounter, where his brain is at, what mindset. So the first time you meet the Verdant Prince, he is angry. He is mad. He is volatile because he's out for blood. He doesn't want to... He's looking for someone to punish. So he's not looking beyond his own aggression, his own hatred, right? Whereas the second time you meet him, it's under different circumstances. A, he's calmer. B, you voluntarily stepped up to face justice, which he respected. Now, again, being that he has this oath type thing, you know, the Verdant Oath, clearly, it doesn't mean he can't lie, it doesn't mean he can't manipulate, but he respects honesty, he respects promise. So, it was like, for him, okay, you voluntarily stepped forward to face justice. Therefore, I am going to make sure that this is done in terms that you will understand. So that's why he ran a very human-like court for you guys. When he told all of his people, you will not interrupt them, and one of them started heckling, and he nuked him on the spot. That was, in his weird, twisted mind, his way of showing you, see, I want to be fair to you guys. I'm gonna keep my word. I told them not to interrupt you, and they did. So look how I dealt with that. At the same time, he's also trying to send the very clear message: my justice is swift and hard and ideal. Mm-hmm. So when it all came down to it, through the roleplay, through the discussions, you convinced him that you were not all responsible for what happened. And he accepted that and absolved you of that. And said, hey, my bad. But then, of course, he was still very upset about the fact that you still went ahead and burnt down the forest. So he laid down the justice, and Marlo had done a little bit of that. She was like trying to set a fire. And Kia was hurling fire at everything. So ultimately, he sits down and says, okay, here is what we're doing. Marlo, you are forbidden to try to create any kind of fire, manually, magically, whatever, for 1 month. Which, incidentally, 2.5 weeks... I mean, it's almost been a month since then. So Marlo's almost free to burn things again. But Kia, he basically told her, you're not to cast any fire magic for an entire year. Hence the marks on her arm here, the tally marks. Now, Kia can... She physically is not stopped, but if she does, she breaks the oath, because she was put under the Verdant Oath, which basically means all of her stats drop by 6, and she slowly but surely becomes very sick and very ill unto death, unless she somehow reaffirms the oath. Not a pleasant thing. But the end result is, you manage to convince them that they would fight for the king but only if the forest itself became in danger, which it did. But we've already discussed the fact that there could have been possibly a way to manipulate them into fighting on the battlefield. As it happens, they didn't. But you could, in all honesty, let's just say the battle went a different way and you lost. What was left of Drakhar's army would not have stood a chance against the Verdant Prince. So that vanguard would have worked. They would have defended the city and the forest. So
I do have a question for you, Gar. Mm-hmm. The water elemental we fought on the way to plant the seeds that Lana told us to do to get on better terms, was that the Verdant Prince test to see you?
Absolutely.
See? Yep. I figured that. Yeah.
Absolutely. He was trying to make it was like, let me see let me see if I can't make you break this oath. Knowing that fire is the most effective thing against a water elemental, so he's like, here, play with this. Let's see how sincere you really are.
What a jerk.
You know.
Oh, you bastard.
Did he see that
he's still evil.
Did he know that we put out the fires that the fire dragon, the juvenile one, put out? Or was that just wasted?
Well, in theory, probably he probably has figured out what happened over there by now, but at the time, obviously, he didn't know.
Right, because he was not there at the time. Right. Okay.
But any case, after that, we see you guys heading to heading north to the Panarian Ridge to evacuate a town. In which doing so you had to rescue some children from a wicked witch. That sounds so cliche to say wicked witch now. Evil witch, evil hag, something like that. And you did that. And then the king showed up. And then we come to the climactic battle. Okay. Woo. So leading up to that, there was a good strong possibility that that Radovan was going to be asked to lead a forlorn hope and charge unto death Drakhar's forces. But the king did not want that to happen. And his belief was, if enough of the war machines could be taken down, that our heroes would possibly, or the units would feel more comfortable and feel like they had a fighting chance, and it might not be necessary. So that is when Kia went, and we saw the way the battle went down, our heroes all had their own parts to play. And it kind of just worked that way. Radovan ended up leading a unit of the Forlorn Hope, but it really didn't end up as forlorn as was initially intended, because by then the King's Knights, Kia had already destroyed most of the war machines on the right flank, so the Knights, seizing the opportunity, charged down the right flank. So there was already, the army had already started.
Yeah.
But
it was pretty forlorn for the rest of the group.
Well, and the thing is, the footmen still looked a little bit shaken, so that was when the king was like holding it off to the last minute, hoping Kia would do more and destroy more, and then it was like, you know what, it's got to be done. So he gave Radovan the nod. Radovan led the Forlorn Hope, and ironically, one of the war machines basically wipes out Radovan's unit almost single-handedly. Radovan's unit clashes, everybody dies, and Radovan is left on his own fighting 20 of the Drakharian infantry. And we saw him basically pull out every trick in the book. He buffed himself through to the point where he's a 10-foot tall iconic
stone creature.
Yeah, a 10-foot tall stone-skinned death machine of St. Cuthbert.
Who
It's
does
like
amazing.
the scene in Lord of the Rings where
Zero
Sauron is up there swatting the infantry to the left and to the right.
Amazing.
And they're powerless to do anything against him.
It's hilarious because I am all those things you just said, except I'm not a death machine.
It didn't
having
kill
to
anything.
buff myself up to not die myself, I couldn't actually attack.
Right. He became
And then I
the
made
ultimate
some
tank.
mistakes. I was just the ultimate. I was the ultimate. Okay, this unit is focused just on me for the
Right.
entire war, and
That's
that's
it.
what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, he built his warrior to be a tank. He definitely did.
I made the mistake with Windwall. I failed the concentration check.
That was kind of
it's
funny.
like-
That was
that
like
was
the most
twice-
pointless thing ever.
Where every round I was taking 8 attacks, 4 from the front, 4 from behind. My armor was 31 from the front and 26 from behind. So I kept getting hits, but I had damage reduction 10 with stone skin, and
Right.
an 130 health bubble from the stone skin spell.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it
stone
was
skin
literally like they were just slowly but sure. And towards the end of the fight, they were finally starting to chip away at the giant oak, step by step, and slowly bringing him down. But at that point, I think, was it the Githzari that showed up and charged into the flank and took him out
Well,
for you
no,
guys?
it
Or was it the
Kia.
hard?
Kia got to a point where she could chain lightning the rest of them.
Yeah,
so
I
finally
promised I would save Radovan,
That's
and
right,
I did.
she did. That's right. It was
I
a chain
finally
lightning
started.
stuff.
I killed like 1 or 2 of them finally,
Gotcha.
and then Kia's like, "I'll take care of the rest for you," and I was like, "Oh,
So
thanks."
that was really what
That was
Radovan
me.
did. That was Radovan's
Yep.
thing. He was and when he joined the Topaz Order, that was basically what was explained to him. You are to be a shining beacon of hope for all to look at and have inspiration. And I
He
think
did what he
pretty much did that as he single-handedly stood toe-to-toe with this army. Anyway, so then Kia Liana, she's over there destroying war machines. Reza initially travels to the astral plane, which I know was a scary thing for her, because it was like, oh, I've never done this before. In fact, she's the only character to have actually officially planes traveled. But then she went to try to take out Drakhar's captain, and that almost resulted in her death. But from some amazing dice rolls, it didn't. But then, literally, she got out of that by the skin of her teeth. But she valiantly went up there and faced this dude, which that was one of the biggest things for me, was a huge change in Racer tactics. Up until now, Racer has been an incredibly cautious individual. Sneak, 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 sneak. Pop out and strike when it's safe, back into the sneak mode. And she's never really been reckless or in any way kind of really put herself on the front line. She's always been involved in the fights, but it's never been in such a way where she's put herself out there to be at imminent death. That totally changed in this battle. So where was Race's head at as she basically gallops over there and drops down behind this guy with the intent, I'm going to take on the captain, basically one-on-one, because there was nobody else to help at that point. Kia's blowing up wall machines, Radovan's surrounded, Marlowe's down there by the king and trying to help her Archon, her sword Archon that Radovan has summoned to assist her, or fighting a juvenile dragon to stop it from wiping out all the archers, which again was a colossal turning point in the battle. Where's Race's head at as she single-handedly takes on the captain?
Well, I think the night before the battle, she of course told the king who she was. And then I think her thing was she started thinking about the next day, and she was like, what can I do? I operate as the sneak and stab, and I can't take on a whole bunch of Drakhar...
A unit.
Yeah, a unit of Drakharians. She went to the point where she's like, I'm useless. I am useless in this war. There's nothing I can do. Then when they got to the battlefield and they saw what it looked like and kind of seen that one guy or that one speck in the middle of with nothing else around it, and it was like, there's nobody guarding.
This is the guy that basically is psychically commanding the units, telling them do this, do that.
Well, I guess I don't think she would know that, right? But she just
that's
could
what
see
he
this
was
one
doing,
guy.
yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is what I can do. And it's all that I can do.
Right. So that was her thought process, is like, I get that. And then, so over on the other side of the battlefield, the juvenile dragon comes out of the sky and he is attacking your side's ranged weaponry. He's taking on the archers. He's taking out the crossbowmen. So Marlowe and the Archon draw his fire with the aid of the Vizier, who's throwing lightning bolts at this darn thing and basically stopping it from killing all of the archers, which ultimately was a huge deal because those archers took out a lot of Drakhar's troops for you guys. Once the troops got to them, they were decimated, but up until that, they were dropping units pretty heftily. So we see this event where Marlowe basically uses her monk ability to shadow step, appears above the dragon, drops down on its back with some epic dice rolls, and proceeds to beat the crap out of the back of this thing. Finally, forcing its head to turn and having it basically crash into the ground, breaking its neck, and that was the death of the first dragon. So at this point, everybody's doing their part. Now, then the fight kind of then became more closed in. Everybody sort of ended up, through the way things happened, in the same spot, closer to each other on the battlefield. And the Prince and Drakhar went toe-to-toe, and boy did they. I mean, there were some serious numbers being thrown. Huge amounts of damage.
God. That was terrifying.
Well, I mean, you're dealing with, Drakhar 5 attacks, the Prince was 3 or 4 attacks, and they weren't hitting light. It was not the sort of fight you wanted to be in the middle of, even though Marlowe was trying her best to get in the middle of it.
Yeah, I have her run up there, and I'm thinking, well, she's going to take on Drakhar, and then here comes the Prince, and I'm like, oh, well, I'll just help the Prince out. It's cool. And then they start hitting each other, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
Right.
Maybe I'll just stand over here and be moral support, because...
Go, Prince, go! Yeah. Well, then, of course, Drakhar uses his ability to planeswalk, vanishes.
Bastard.
You think, because he was getting his ass whooped, everybody thought he's bailing. He's getting out of here. But he didn't. He let everybody leave, and as the prince climbs up on his horse, totally defenses, Drakhar materializes behind him, takes both of his swords, and basically kills the prince. At that point, the dragon is on the battlefield, the big dragon. You guys are duking it out with it. Again, Kia is hurling spells, the Vizier is hurling spells. You're all doing what you can. And Drakhar now is on the battlefield by himself. He's killed the prince, deciding who he's going after next. Here comes the king, here comes the vizier. But Drakhar at that point is still very much in the game and still a very dangerous threat. And then something bizarre happens. Raisa comes riding along on her horse, and she had coated her sword with a paralyzing agent. And she takes a swing at Drakhar. Well, hitting the guy isn't easy in the first place, but she does it. Well, now there's a saving throw. Drakhar has to get 20 or above on a fortitude save, but he has plus 15. He needs to roll a 5 or higher. So there's only a 25% chance that he's going to fail this, if you want to break it down to percentages, right? And he did fail. And he becomes paralyzed, which again was a huge turning point, because the probably the toughest thing on the battlefield, is definitely apart from the adult dragon, can do nothing now for a certain number of rounds. And Raisa drops down behind him, puts her dagger to his throat, and is about to kill him, but looks to the king for his approval first. The king seizes this opportunity, knowing his son is dead, walks over, spews some shit at Drakhar, basically saying, you know what, you're not taking our kingdom, to hell with you, and he gives Raisa a polite nod. She slits Drakhar's throat, killing him, leaving him dead. Around the same time, the dragon is taken down.
Which killed the captain, by the way.
Oh, exactly right, yeah.
Well, he was still alive. Radovan technically killed the captain, but the dragon fire definitely helped.
Oh, yeah, sure. Kind of finished him off.
But Radovan finished him off.
And
it's the only thing he did.
Here we are at the end of the battle. The prince is dead. There's not a single unit left alive. Drakhar has a few minions at the back that were manning the war machines that just slowly but surely just disappear into the ethereal plane, never to be seen again, presumably, who knows. But certainly there was only a few dozen of them at the most. And then everybody else is busy worrying about going back to the town with the king, who's solemn and upset because his son is dead, and this, that, and the other. And Raisa and Marlowe basically decide that it's way too good an opportunity, so they claim the dragon's heads. Now, of course, we've not seen what they are doing with the dragon's heads. Radovan basically already said that he was casting the spell on the dragon's head, which preserves them for a couple of weeks. So, what do you plan on doing with 2 dragon's heads?
Trophies.
Where?
Fuck yeah.
They're kind of big. Where are you gonna mount them?
In my home.
Raisa's a
Wherever
freaking
that will be.
princess. I'm sure she has a big enough room for it.
Well, now it's a little different. Yeah, maybe now you've got now you've got a palace basically that you're allowed to live in. You might be able to do something about that.
My thoughts were, when those dragon heads were on the battlefield, it's like, we are the chances of me A, seeing a dragon again, and B, having 2 of them dead is like 0. I'm taking these. This is what legends are made of, stories. I was just like, we can't leave these.
Right. And that's what's so funny, is they took the dragon's heads and left all the magical swords behind. But hey, it makes sense. I totally understand. It's like, the swords were almost like a secondary thing at that point. It's like no one even cared. And rightly so. There was too much crazy things going on that battlefield for people to worry about looting. I mean, can you imagine, under different circumstances, Racer would have been, I check all the bodies.
That would take
2 days later, Racer comes off the battlefield and says, I need some more sacks, guys. I don't have enough sacks to put the loot in. But, hey, there is now a battlefield laden with corpses, with gallons upon gallons of blood spilt the plains beneath the Panarian Ridge for all time. Legends will be sung, stories will be told. So that pretty much is like the start to finish how the campaign went. Closing thoughts, guys. So Radovan, do you have any closing thoughts about things?
I guess the questions.
Speech.
People ask questions. I'll have things to say.
Okay.
Just
Before we throw it out to questions, any of you guys have anything at all that you want to say as closing thoughts? Raisa.
I hate you, is what I want to say.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
I'm gonna say that Raisa's probably gonna go back to the battlefield and help with the cleanup because she is Raisa, and I want some dragon claws as well, and maybe tail spikes and stuff like that. Like, she is really pumped about the fact that Marlowe killed 2 dragons, and she's proud of that.
Right.
And she probably will try and get some sort of a trophy off of Drakhar, because that's a big deal too.
Right.
She killed Drakhar, and since she's been announced as a princess, now can be like, the princess killed Drakhar. Boom!
Right. There you go. Right.
And I'm
Awesome.
really excited to see when we decide to continue this campaign. There's so many open doors right now, and I cannot.
Well, and that's the cool
wait.
thing, right? Is it's like the world has officially changed for all these characters. The opening, the future prospects are huge. We already know Radovan has a year-long mission to go to. He's got a year-long pilgrimage to take. Will that be part of the next story with these characters? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. It may happen and we pick things up after that pilgrimage, or it may tie into things. You guys know how I am. I try to tend to make sure everything somehow neatly ties into something else, so we'll see. But there we go. So Marlo, do you have any last thoughts, Kia? Other than I hate you, Kia?
As my last thought, I'll answer Zizzo's question. Now that your first campaign with Howreroll is done, how did you like it? Was there any nervousness coming into the HRR community as a new person? I loved it. I wouldn't spend so much time with you guys if I didn't, and so much time developing the characters' backstories and everything. I genuinely got super personally involved with the other characters' lives, as far as getting, teary-eyed whenever Raisa was dealing with her parents, and Kia with Cal, and Radovan dealing with his becoming a war priest and taking the Forlorn Hope, and all of that really touched me on a personal level. So I really loved how involved the story got to me. It really got to me. Marlo feels like she's so much like a real person to me right now, you guys. It's unreal.
I know how upset you as a player became when Marlo died, and I think that right there is a testimony to when you get attached to a player character. Like, when you have a character, you can get emotionally make an attachment to it, and I think when it becomes like that, it becomes real to you. It helps you roleplay it to a different level than you would if it's just a sheet of paper that you're going through the motions of. And I will just say that this last campaign, we've typically done this artificially, accidentally, intentionally, I'm not going to say which, but every campaign we have had major feels moments where chat has been in tears, literally. People have tweeted pictures, we've seen you guys react and stuff. That was no exception here. When Radovan basically told everybody he was going to participate in the Forlorn Hope and basically was going to die, it was a huge feels moment. When Raisa and her mom had that moment, there was a huge feels moment. It's a lot of things that we're able to do. And I think for us, knowing that we are playing this game not to play D&D, but to use D&D as a mechanic to tell you guys a story, that's what we're going for. That's the testament. And to do it justice, we have to be able to immerse ourselves into it that deeply, I think. If you do anything less than that, I think we're doing it we're doing an injustice to chat. Hell, I've almost been in tears a couple of times. I believe, I know Marlo has, I know Raisa has, I know Kia's been on the verge. I think Radovan's even Shaggott's got choked up a couple of times. I'm not saying he's cried or anything like that, but he has got choked
Oh,
up a couple
you
of
have.
times.
Yeah, you have. Come on.
And the majority of the times, it wasn't something that was planned that way.
Right,
With the exception of Marlo dying and going to see her mentor, that was slightly planned. Everything else,
her
though,
dying wasn't planned, but
no, her
Right.
dying wasn't planned, but the interaction with her mentor was.
but that's what we did when Marlo died. I was like, okay, I don't want Spook to have to sit here for the next couple of episodes and do nothing. How do I want to cover this? And it was like, okay, she is a very spiritual orientated person. She has a very spiritual kind of story. It makes perfect sense. So that's why I said to Spook, okay, we're gonna cutscene. We're gonna keep cutscening to you in the afterlife. We're gonna explore this emotional thing, and we did that. And I think that really played out really well for us.
And of course, it made crying at that part was made much easier with the fact that I had to go into depth and create Marlo's backstory,
right,
and really get involved in the fact of her feelings for her mentor and everything that happened with her. And guys, when she died, that was painful. Like, I didn't really show it as much as I could on the camera, but
right.
It was bad for me. I felt like somebody I knew was gone. Like, it really affected me badly. And I don't know if I had told you guys this, but DRC was here, but he was in the bathroom at the time. And it's not a very attractive story, but when this had happened, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start bawling right here on camera. I don't want to like bum everybody out, but I'm super upset right now. I left off camera. I walk in there and I noticed that he's got the bathroom door closed, but I'm like super upset at this time. So I just like kick the door open, and he's like, sitting there doing whatever you do in a bathroom. And I'm like, he's like, excuse me? And I go, I'm in tears, right? And I'm so upset, and I'm like, Marlo just died. And he's like, oh, can I have a minute? And then, like, after we ended the show and, like, we were sitting here talking in the after part, like, Bane had commented that, like, she just saw the hand, like, come in, was patting me on the shoulder, and that was him trying to console me because I was so upset, and interrupted his private, personal time in the bathroom because I was so upset over Marlo.
And the fact that you refer to it as private, personal time just makes it even worse, because he was taking a pee or something would have been a lot less. So we had a question, and yes, so let me just open the shutter real quick. So yeah, this bloody thing. Spider Pig. So yes, in Terry's munificent menagerie, as he called it, we did indeed encounter the Spider Pig. Again, that Spider Pig was pretty much created on a bizarre whim on one of the Good Morning Arcona shows that we did. And it just... I don't even know exactly how we came up with it, but it just sort of happened.
Spider Pig, Spider Pig. Does whatever a spider pig
What the
does.
hell did we make
Can
it
he
for?
swing
There was really no
from
point.
a web? No, we can't. He's a pig. Look out! He is a spider pig.
So yeah, Spider Pig. But anyway, it was thrown in there just to be fun, just to be interesting, just to be different. And Terry, he was, it was, she was, whatever you want to call it. Has this bizarre pet shop, and Kia, and then went to meet with Terry. And I know that Marlo hated Terry's guts.
She felt like he was poisoning Kia. She was trying to tell. He was just like, "Oh no, no, just stop talking."
Yes, indeed. But that was, the Spider Pig was. Will we ever use the Spider Pig again? Maybe. It doesn't have any real relevance to anything except for the ability just to be fun. As serious as we try to keep Howreroll in the campaigns, never hurts to have a little bit of comic relief here and there. So if you guys have any other questions, we'll give you a moment to throw those out before we wrap things up, because it's very late, and I know people are wanting to get out of here.
There was a question asked of Radovan buying the tower in Saruman, or asking the king for it. I will just say that, actually, no, that's not on Radovan's mind right now. When he originally wanted to acquire it, it was still in his selfish mode. And now that he has his pilgrimage to complete for the Sword Archon, he is really all about the kingdom and trying to do what's right. So he has no interest in asking the king for that tower.
Yeah, he may have other things to do with it now. We'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
Fleto asked how close was Kia to actually purchasing a cow replacement. Terry was pretty convincing, so she really thought about it until the prices were really outrageous. And she was like, oh, never mind, can't even afford this, so nope.
Right, there you go. Okay, here's an interesting one. Distorted Signal at Gorban. As a DM, how often do you fudge your rolls? Well, I think in this campaign, pretty much every dice that I rolled was open rolled. So none at all. When I rolled dice, you pretty much got to see it, especially at all the combats. How it happened, went down. When they had that huge battle with the barbarians, I really thought we were going to get a TPK. I did. I thought they were all going to die. Because I rolled like 5 natural 20s in that fight, 2 of them back to back. And my dice were rocking it, and the players not so much. And at one point, I was like, someone's dying tonight. This is going to suck. As it happens, they didn't. They come through it literally through the skin of their teeth. Generally speaking, when it comes to dice roll fudging, I am not for or against it. With around a table, if I have the DM screen up, generally with newer players or younger players or inexperienced players, I will fudge the dice to not have stupid things happen. If a group of heroes are fighting, they're level 3, they're fighting a couple of kobolds which were there for no other reason than just to give them something to beat up on, and I start rolling ungodly, yeah, there may be times when behind that screen I might be like, yeah, this is not happening. And I might modify and fudge those dice. I think we are far enough along with the campaign, the level of the characters and the experience of these players, that they don't need that shield anymore. They don't need to be babied. If they die, they die, as we've already demonstrated. Last campaign, Radovan lost his Witch Hunter. Veslar Noloth died. In this campaign, Marlowe died. Due to the nature of her death, due to the circumstances, she did get resurrected, but it did cost her a level. So, fudging dice, there are definitely, I definitely don't have a problem with it. I definitely think there are times and places when it should happen. That being said, we're not just playing D&D, we're putting on a live show using D&D as the mechanic to display that. And I think one of the powers of Howreroll is the fact that you know that we will let the characters die. You know that I'm not artificially keeping them alive. And if the rolls go against them, we will see character deaths. With that realization that they can die, it makes their achievements all the more epic. And it makes the stories all the more immersive. You guys attach to it. You can sync to it. Because each episode you do not know. Whereas if I rolled all the dice behind the screen, you never saw the dice, and no matter what, they always seem to pull through. There would be this point where people are like, yeah, they're not going to die. He's not going to let them die. We are Game of Thrones. Any fucker can die on our show. Abakira, thank you for resubscribing. Give that
Thank you,
Abba.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it, buddy.
We are Game of Thrones. Oh my god.
Well, that
Did
style.
you just say that, Gore? Did you say we are Game of Thrones?
Yeah, but you know what I mean. They on that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
People
Everybody
die.
dies,
They die.
right? No matter how much you think someone's a main character, they're never going to die. They die. That's what I mean.
We just got really lucky at the finale
Right, exactly.
as players.
It's a freaking war, and Marlowe took 1 hit point of damage.
The barbarians.
I mean,
when there was a
say,
rage quit, that's right. Marlowe's computer died on us halfway through the fight, like right as she was getting killed. It rage quit on us.
I mean, it was very funny because if Radovan had not given Risa magic vestment, she would have died. Right? Because some of those rolls were above 16 but below 20. So that was just like, I need to boost the rogue up so she can get her backstabbiness off, and that saved her life to some degree. I mean,
right.
She still almost died because those guys were badass.
Well, DB gives us the perfect transitional question here. Howreroll, how many years or months that the next campaign takes time-wise? Like a month after the battle, a year or 2? Okay, so here's what's going to happen. As you've just seen, the war has happened. Iridian is in a shambles, as is Arconis. So we're bringing you the next campaign. Obviously, it will be set in Arconis. So the first thing, you guys, here's where we're going to give you a little bit of information on the new campaign. The first thing we can tell you is the name of the new campaign. The new campaign is called Wrath of the Fallen. The Wrath of the Fallen. That is the name for the new campaign, so you guys officially know that now. It is going to be interesting for you guys that have seen the first campaign, Marks of Intrigue, because it is going to take us back to we're going back to the West. We're going back to places like the city of Corthan. We're going back to Saramorn. We're going back to some of the old haunts. We will probably see Lord Yarnspinner's area once again. All of these things are coming back in the new story. We're revisiting. So the difference is, you've got to remember, a few years have passed since you last saw these areas. So there's going to be some things that are going to be different. It'll be fun for the new guys because they're going to get to see some things that they've not seen before. And you guys that have been here with us from the start are going to get to re-see some stuff in a different light. And I think that's going to change the perspective for you guys a little bit. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Let's see. Josh Casavan and Folklore XP, thank you for those follows. So I think that'll be fun. So that's the first thing. As I said, it is called the Wrath of the Fallen. Now, this is going to be, to put a label on it, it's an evil campaign. Our heroes are not heroes. They are bad people. They are not nice folk. They all have their own agendas, and we're excited to kind of show you our take on how to run an evil campaign. And I think it's one of the first things I'm going to say. It is one of the toughest things you can do is to run a successful evil campaign in D&D. It is very challenging for the players, especially because the temptation to basically do stupid things and throw caution to the wind is strong. So the character depth has to be a lot more because you have to have enough substance about your character to motivate you in certain ways, to keep you honest in certain ways. And let's remember that being evil does not equal the same as being stupid or being insane. There's a difference. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the new campaign comes around. So in the Wrath of the Fallen, you are going to see 4 new characters. Confirmed that there is 4. As I've said, I'm not telling you who is playing what. I'm not going to give you much information on those characters, other than race and class. You are going to see a gargantuan of a man, male barbarian. And I mean a
just
gargantuan.
Said you're not... Oh. I thought you said race and class.
As in, like, who, gender. Not as in who's going to play what.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, as in, like, and this is played by a guy or this is played by a girl.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
What's his name? Do we get to know his name?
I
don't
have
the
it
names
written down. I'm not going to do that right now.
Okay.
But he is... Now, we rolled... On How We Roll, we roll stats. We don't points buy. We roll. The players are given what they roll to play with. when I say that this was some of the most insanely high rolling of a character I've ever seen, I am not kidding. This is a monster of a barbarian. Legit rolled, straight up. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. So that's going to be fun. And minor spoiler, he is from the Scarblood tribe.
Ooh.
So one of those Scarblooders is alive at least, and it is going to be played by one of the players. He's going to be a monster of a barbarian, trust me, it is a beast. Another character we're going to see is a tiefling warlock. His backstory, the characters, is very, very interesting. And I think you're going to see a very different contrast between the tiefling and the barbarian for sure. We have a druid. Someone's playing a druid. A strong druid. Basically, it is druid of the moon, so it is a shapeshifter. And I have come up with a lot of fun homebrewed rules for this druid, trust me. So it's not going to be... It's going to be... The roleplay aspects of this are going to be immense. And then finally, we have a custom class, as it were. It is not a core class. And I'm not going to tell you what the class literally is, because I think it reveals too much. Needless to say, it's kind of like a ringleader. And when I mean ringleader, I don't mean a person that leads. I mean the sort of person you'd expect to be walking around in a big top, like in the circus.
That's not weird to say at all.
Right, and it's like, it's gonna be interesting. It's a crazy mixture of characters. The biggest thing is, what are they up to? What is their motivation? That's what's gonna bring this whole thing together. Wrath of the Fallen pretty much implies, you know, some pissed off fallen people. We're gonna see what happens. But that's pretty much what the new campaign is entitled. There's a little bit of information for you. You know it's going to be set in Arconis. You know it's going to be set back to the west, back to some of the old lands. You will discover some new territories that you haven't seen before in the west, but there will be some of the existing stuff that you've met before will happen as well. So, you know, some old, some new, but even the old is new because several years have gone by. To answer the question, how far from now is this campaign going to be set? Probably about 4 to 6 months. So from the time that this campaign just ended, the next one will be set about 4 to 6 months, which means the true decline and decadence that the kingdom is heading for will be fully realized by this point. Things will have changed. The political powers will have begun to have shifted. Nobles have been bled, as it were. There's going to be some malcontent. So you're going to see a much more rough around the edges, darker aspect of Arconis.
Also, guys, up until now we have played in 3.5 homebrew. The next adventure, Wrath of the Fallen, is going to take place in 5e rule set.
Right. It will
so
be a
we are
5e
moving to
campaign.
5th edition. 5e.
Yeah.
5e homebrew still, though.
Oh, it is
It's
very
still
homebrewed. One of the things that I will be doing, because it is 5e, once I'm finished with it, I will up on our website will be a short list of the homebrewing that we're doing. It may not go into full explanation, but it will explain to you where the key changes are, and why the key changes are there. So, go ahead.
Flutto, also remember, Radovan is on pilgrimage, returning to the west and then heading north. So that takes a while to travel, right? Who knows?
Right. Yep,
maybe some of Radovan's exploits will be overheard in bars, whisking, drinking. You know.
Well, by the time the new
knows?
campaign starts, it will be pretty common knowledge about the war. So the new characters will be aware of the existence of the war. Maybe they will have heard of Reza, Radovan, Marlowe, and Kia. Who knows? But there we go. Howreroll, and this new campaign begins on Monday. No, it does not begin on Monday. The initial intention was to begin on May the 12th, which is next Thursday. That being said, we kind of got a week setback because when we couldn't do this show Monday, it kind of stole some of our time, and we still have some things to finalize. I've got to get with the players and finalize the decision. It will either be May 12th or it will be May 19th. It'll either be next Thursday or the Thursday after. So we will finalize that. We'll tweet it out and we will let you know. And I'm sure that between now and then we won't be necessarily playing D&D, but we will probably do something on. We probably still have some streams. So we'll keep you informed on any of that stuff. But the original intent was to do it on the 12th. Since we didn't get Monday, we're now kind of up against the gun. I don't know that we're going to get all the things done that we need to in time to do it on the 12th. If we're not going to, we're going to push it back to the 19th. So there you go.
Do you want to just like share the alignments of each character without saying what their character is? Or do you not really care? It's like
no,
like
we can. We can.
I don't know. I was just thinking because people mention alignments with.
I just don't have them all right here, and unless you guys know what they all are, if you say, I mean, you can, if if you throw out an alignment, you're basically
message it to you on BattleNet.
Yeah, do that. All right, we got a bunch of follows coming in, so let me go ahead and thank those while you're doing that. For the ones that I haven't thanked, Rivi, Jedi 12, Zoxy, We Own the Nation, Beast Runner, Lando Carlson, Beachwave Dave,
thanks, guys.
Sierra Arise, Hammond334, and Strexborn. Thank you guys for those follows. We appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys from the beginning of our next campaign.
So we have a neutral evil, a lawful evil, a chaotic neutral, and I believe another chaotic neutral. Those are the alignments. So the nicest is either chaotic neutral or lawful evil. Depends on your perspective, right?
Lawful evil.
So we shall see what we see, guys. But yeah, so that's the new campaign, Wrath of the Fallen. Stay tuned because we will release, as you've seen before, we always do an intro video and an outro video for the new campaigns. The new intro video will be teased to you guys as soon as it's finalized before the campaign goes live, and that will go a long way to setting the tone and giving you guys some good information on who and what these characters are, because it will, of course, well, introduce them in such a way. So that's coming up soon.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, if you got any more, throw them at us, because we're about done.
I'm so excited.
Clandestine, we're really hoping that the way we run and play the evil campaign will change how people think about playing evil campaigns.
Right.
Like we want to make an active, concerted effort to dispel some of that shit you read on Reddit in the D&D section.
Right.
About their evil campaigns falling apart because of betrayal, because of murder holding.
Yeah.
We really want to try to show a different way it can be played that's just as fun as being good.
Right.
And challenging as all hell.
There you go.
Because it is.
Grogarin says, Gorbert, have you ever considered doing a D&D campaign with people who haven't never played D&D but have roleplayed before? That's basically how we roll. That's what we did. That's how we started. Basically, when Spook joined us, she had some D&D experience, but prior to Spook joining us in this last campaign, Radovan, Reza, and Kia all had role-playing experience, but never had played D&D. So that's exactly what we did. I find it hard not to suspend the feeling that evil characters just don't get it. Right. Yeah. Radovan said it correctly when he said, we're going to show you something different. I think that people often have a very shallow and narrow view of what evil is, and how evil is played, and how it should act, and how it should behave. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to go a long way to showing you, that just because a character may not have a negative conscience about doing something bad does not mean he will go out of his way to do it, and does not mean he may not even try to avoid doing it. The big difference is, when he does it, will he lose any sleep over it?
My goal is to make everybody sympathize with my character.
Right, there you go. Anything planned for next week if the campaign does not occur? Yes. If we're not playing that, we will probably get on and either play a game with viewers, either Quiplash, Cards Against Humanity. We may play Talisman. We'll probably do something. So there'll be something flown about, I'm sure.
I wanted to acknowledge a state of trance. Is that what you were doing?
That's exactly what I was doing, so go ahead.
Donald Trump counted neutral.
State of trance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yes.
And thank you, Bite.
What did I miss? State of trance?
He was never into D&D before this campaign. Do you see it?
Oh, there it is. Yep. Not really a question, but more of a thanks. I was never into D&D at all before this campaign, but I've enjoyed it a ton. You guys are great. Thank you, dude. We appreciate it.
And thank you, Bite Size, for sticking it out. Go to sleep.
Damn straight, man. Damn straight. Swag Lord Super, thanks for that follow.
I think
Mortal Wombat, yes.
D&D Freak, thank you for the follow.
I think there's a lot of misinformation about what the alignments mean. People tend to think evil means outwardly evil. To me, evil is extremely self-interested, to say whatever they need to, but ultimately they do their best to make sure they get what they want, regardless of whatever else happens.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to that.
Also, disregard for the sanctity of life, right? You don't really care if people die. But that doesn't mean you're going to actively go around killing people.
You know, it's like, what is evil? I mean, being evil, it's so easy to classify and determine, right? You can say, well, doing these things makes you evil. Truthfully, being evil to me means more to have an understanding about what is expected, what is tolerated, and what is the norm, and what is okay and is acceptable behavior, and then knowingly choosing to go against that. You know, I mean, depends on a culture. In one culture, you could say doing this is evil. In another culture, doing this may not be evil. So there's a lot of changes in where an alignment sits when you start classifying stuff like that. You know, it's like lawful. Well, lawful can mean you tell the truth and you're honest. It can also mean you obey and uphold the law. Are you not lawful if you disobey an unjust law? You know, it's like, where does that sit? Well, the law says this, right? But that goes against my conscience to agree to that. Yeah. There's a fine line you've got to figure out. And for different characters, lawful means something different. And in the same way, I think evil can mean something different.
The difference between lawful was illustrated in our last campaign a little bit.
It was,
between
yeah.
Marlowe and Radovan were both lawful, but Marlowe broke into a blacksmith shop. So.
Exactly right. Yep. Evil just means that someone else labeled them as such. There's no exactly. It's, as I said, it's more of a where do you fit in where the norm is. And again, you know, just because you are willing to do some things that some other people would frown upon or be shocked that you do, whereas person A would have deep regret and feel consequence and feel bad for doing certain things, person B may not. That doesn't mean that person B would automatically go out of his way to do it. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be really curious. Right, I'm with Bane, mind you. Why not watch the reruns? We can all chat to you another time, right? That's one of the things you got to realize is putting in 6 months of writing and developing and creating maps and stuff like that, as much as I love doing this, I gotta admit it doesn't hurt to get a week or so that I don't have to do it, because it is an awful lot to keep up with on a week-to-week basis. You know, these stories have to be created, the maps that we use, because we use a map for every single scene. Not just the combat scenes. Every single scene we use a map, just because it adds more immersion. It gives you guys something to look at. It makes it easier for you to follow the story. They all have to be manually, physically set up and built from the ground up. They're not screenshots that I can just download and use. So there's a lot that goes into it. So, you know, it's always a sigh of relief for me to get to the end of a campaign knowing that I can take a couple of nights where I don't have to stress over it.
State of Trance. Yes, we encourage interaction. We love getting to see how much you guys enjoy what we do for you.
Oh, I was just going to say shut up. I'm joking.
No.
I'm joking.
No, absolutely.
I'm joking.
There's the door. Get out.
Gorback,
Thank you, State of Trance.
6 months. Is
That's
this
what
your...
makes it
No,
work.
it's not. This is... I have an
It's
8 to
a
5
night
job
job.
that I have to do as well as this stuff. As I showed people earlier, this was the notes just for this campaign. All of this, and that's just the notes. Then all those maps that we have, you know, like, well, just right here.
That the time and work makes it worth it.
That's right. This was a pet shop that may or may not have ever been visited, and when they were in there, it was nothing more than comic release. Trust me, every single one of these items is built from the ground up. The tank is 5 little icons all put together to build the fish tank. You know, every one of these things is an item that was placed on the table. Each one of these was put inside the tank. It's all physically built from the ground up. And they all have to be done. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But you guys are worth it because you support us loyally. You give us your time, which is the most valuable thing you guys can do. You know, I will just say somebody, and I won't say who. I don't know if they're still here or not. And I'm not going to refer to anything other than just say this. Howreroll got a PM on Twitter, on Twitch, that said how grateful they were that even though we are a subbed stream, we still thank followers. Nobody does that. Well, I will say this. There are some subscriber streams, the big streams. Don't hate on them for it. They can't. Because the follows come in for some of them so fast, if they thanked every follow, they'd never get it done. Fortunately for us, we're not that big. So for as long as we can, we will still acknowledge every donation. We will still acknowledge every subscriber. And we will even still acknowledge every follower. Because if you care enough, we should. Heaven forbid, years down the road, if it's to a point where we can't do that anymore, don't hate us for it, is all I'm saying, right? We're doing it because we can right now.
We also have amazing mods that help us keep up with it,
exactly
too.
right. And the fact that somebody wanted to say that to us, it was good because I was like, okay, someone does notice that, you know, we go to that effort. And sometimes, if we're in deep roleplay, I will wait and do them in little blocks like I just did. But generally speaking, we try to make sure we get to everybody. Build the Wall, thank you for your follow as well. But yeah, you know, we are an interactive stream. We're here for you guys. We want you to be part. That's why we've always said it. We have the most amazing community. You guys rock. The Howreroll community makes us what we are. You know, it's friggin' awesome that you guys are here and hang out with us. So
I always do whatever I can to make sure that I'm here for you guys. So, because I have to work and help manage a store, and it gets rough sometimes because, like, I'll come home from work on a Monday or a Thursday and I just want to go to sleep.
Right.
But
I want to address D&D Freaks. Sorry, the one before that, where was it? Hang on. Okay, Killer. First of all, Killer. Before I answer that question, I'm just going to play this little soundbite. Killer says, it's just weird seeing Cal and Drakhar's donation list side by side. Little fishy. Is somehow Cal and Drakhar in league?
Plot twist.
Oh my god.
Dun.
Is the reason that they were able to do so much, was Drakhar able to do what he did because he had Cal on the inside? Oh my god, who would know? D&D Freak says, do you think that your Thursday game suffers because of Critical Role? No.
Opposite.
We don't. Stranger Too Strong, thanks for the follow. If anything, our D&D stream benefits because of them. Again, I'll say this in the most politically correct way I can. There are a lot of smaller D&D streams that hate on Critical Role a little bit. We don't. The reason we don't is because even though technically, yes, they're competing with us, let's be honest, we're not competition for them. We have our own niche. We do our own thing. We do it different. We're not the same as them. We have a different way of doing things. But the one thing that they do that we could never do is bring so many new D&D players to Twitch to watch. And if they come because of Critical Role, 9 times out of 10, we're the second channel. So if you're watching Critical Role, usually Howreroll is the next largest channel. And if you watch Critical Role, then maybe if you enjoy watching them, you click over to us, see what we're doing, and say, hey, you know what? This is cool too. And we get viewers that way. And we're on Mondays, and they're not. So you know what? You can watch us Monday and watch them Thursday if you want to. We start earlier than them on a Thursday. Typically, we go off before they finish. Not tonight, maybe, but typically we do. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely not they don't hurt us in any way, for sure. I would definitely say they are better. They are a good thing for us, if anything. So thank you, Matt Mercer and your crew. Wish we had your budget.
Right, we all need our assistants, right, Gore? You need like 10, and then sound production and all that stuff.
Right.
We could make some magic happen.
Have you just seen they've just done an intro video, and of course they're all together and it's cinematic and they've actually
epic, yeah.
One day,
jealous.
One day,
sounds
right?
awesome.
We would have done it already if we could all just get in the same place at the same time, right?
Oh yeah.
Mortal Wombat said, "Go bad. I'm gonna be honest. I found you guys last week when I was looking for just any roleplay sessions. I really like you guys though. You're very entertaining. When I see you in followers, I watch you guys over everyone else. Thank you, dude. That's appreciated."
D&D Freak, you don't need to sub to us. We appreciate it. We love you for it, but we love you anyway.
That's
just
right.
Being here,
you want to
being part of the community.
To get access to the emotes and the website, the bonus stuff, do it. But don't feel obligated, man.
I mean,
how many of you are full-time streamers, as in you don't have another job? Bane technically is. I'd love to be. I need to be.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It would, right? That's right. Critical Role does their thing. We do ours. That's it. As I said, they bring a ton of new people to the genre. It's fantastic. And yes, thank you for everybody that retweets us. That really helps us.
Retweeting helps more than you guys realize. Just saying.
Right. I saw Critical Role a few times. I like the way you guys do things better, though. I don't have time to watch 2 campaigns, so I choose you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's nice.
Critical Role is a gateway drug, and Howreroll is apparently the heroin. Oh, well, I don't know if I appreciate the sentiment. I don't know if I'd like it necessarily publicized that way.
No. Have fun. Okay.
Jetstream, never seen Critical Role. Are they good? They do things differently than we do. They've got a really good DM. They have a high budget. It's a big production show, so you should check it out. Make up your own decision. Well, I played D&D way back in the late 70s and all through the 90s. Got to follow this. Appreciate it, dude. You guys that never watched Critical Role probably never will. You guys are more real, especially since you are more personable than they can be. Yeah, and again, just understand, that's not what they're there for. Never played D&D since 15, but love watching.
Trained voice actors, yeah.
Awesome, dude. Oh, DB, anything on the Portrait Earth? Yeah, okay. couple of things. First of all, if you happen to be in northern Louisiana this weekend, Saturday, in Monroe, there is an event called Geeks on the River. It's a one-day geek festival. I will be there representing Howreroll alongside the guys from Tortured Earth. I start playing their campaign with them next week, in theory. And our goal is, hopefully by July, to have a once-a-month Tortured Earth stream scheduled regularly on the show. It may happen before, but July is a safe bet. Let's see.
That's exciting.
Sonics, yes, the most recent campaign is over. We're starting up a new one in a couple of weeks, or a week and a half. And it'll be an evil campaign in 5e homebrew. With all new characters.
Grogan, teach me how to play D&D, Senpai Gorbat. Go to thedmblog.com and start reading. That's kind of, sort of the thing there. Wait, there are other D&D streams? Pff, see you guys later. Love
Bye.
you too, Hammer. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Hammer. Gore's the best amateur voice actor you'll ever see. Oh, well, thank you.
Or do the Lana voice, just
I don't know
now.
that I can. My voice is already kind of sore now.
Just one word.
What do you want me to say in Lana? Lana,
Talk about the Tin Man.
Huh?
Say, I was going to talk about the Tin Man.
Oh, you like it when she talks about Radovan being the Tin Man? Let me see if I can pull it off. This may not work, guys, because literally I can already feel it's.
I believe in you, Gore. You got
red
this.
stuff all over the Tin Man.
Neonic Sonics, thank you. Lana, yep. DJ Doctor Who, thank you for the follow as well. Appreciate you, dude. The Heisenberg, thank you for the follow.
Mortal Wombat, you definitely want to check out the DM blog. I think Gorbad did a blog post about how people DM differently, and if you can't do the voices, then don't do the voices.
Absolutely, I did
utilize
a blog
your
on
strengths.
That. Find your, don't emulate somebody else. Find your strengths and do it your way. Yep. Okay, let's try Lana. I know Lana talking about red stuff and Lana talking about the Tin Man. Oh God.
On the spot.
This is gonna kill me tomorrow, but you guys are worth it. All right. So, Lana likes the Tin Man. Lana likes red stuff. Yeah. There, that's Lana.
Yeah.
It killed me.
Jane, do the butler voice.
Yeah, they want the butler. They want your They want
They
your copy.
said, okay, when whoever asked that said for the last time, as if like this is the last time I'm ever gonna be on the show ever. Like I could do it at any time.
Well, also
so
don't
why
forget,
right now?
They may bump into the butler, the guy you're talking about. They're gonna be over there.
Yes. Yes, this way. Come on in.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna do. God damn. Alright.
Oh, you guys. Where is the event and what time does it start? I think it starts around 10 a.m. It is on the boardwalk in Monroe, along the river. The chances are I will be there. I will be the guy in a Howreroll shirt.
Nice.
And probably this hat. No.
Talleyrand says when even if you don't do voices, you can get a lot of mileage, but just changes of tone and cadence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right.
Yep. There, as I said on the DM blog, I definitely did an article on that. Talks about how to use your voice as a DM, and it does definitely go into play to your strengths. If you don't have the octave range to do a lot of different voices and you feel silly, or you don't need to do that. You can do things in another way, for sure. It kind of tells you, there's different ways of DMing, first person, third person, different ways of playing. But go ahead and read that, and you'll get the gist of what we're talking about. I know you have your own stream. Do you have a sub button on the channel? If so, how does being part of two streams work? Sounds like it can get hectic. You kind of sort of do have a sub button, right? Because you utilize the Patreon method.
Well, yeah, I don't have an official sub button, but I do have Patreon, so you can kind of sub via that way. But yeah, it gets hectic. I just schedule.
Right. There you go.
Jet, she usually posts her schedule on Twitter, so if you're not following her or one of us, I usually try to retweet her schedule when I see it. Also, coming to watch could help Bane earn that sub button.
Damn straight.
Yeah, I meet all the criteria except for the viewer count. Need to get that up.
And honestly, guys, that's what it is. It's about viewer counts. Followers, we love followers, but following is a click of a button, and anyone can do it. What matters to a streamer, and what matters especially to us, which is why every show we thank the viewers as much as we do anything else. When you view our channel and we have a nice high viewer count, that is what matters to us. That is where we gain strength. That is what puts us to the top. That's what helps us grow. Followers, hitting the follow button is fantastic. We love that. But if you follow but don't ever watch the show, it doesn't really help us. And it's the same for any other streamer. So yeah, if you watch Bane, if you're going to go and check out Bane's stream, you should do it. You should follow it. But other than hitting the follow button, hang out and watch, because it's always fun. So, especially on Fridays, like Tasty Beverage Friday and shit like that, right?
No, we don't care about the mods, Ninja.
Right. No, actually, that is one of the last things that I do have on my list. I do want to talk about our mods briefly. If we have no more questions. So, before we go, yes, I would definitely like to thank... I definitely want to say all of our moderators, they do a fantastic job. We are lucky in the fact that we don't get a whole lot of trolls. We have a fantastic community. Big Ted and Coffee, thank you for those follows, guys. But every stream does. There's always going to be those immature idiots that show up and just say something pointless for the feeling of the fact that they got to do it. It doesn't stay in our chat for more than a second. Our mods are fast. They shut people down. They know who to ban, who not to ban. You know, they do a great job. They really do. So one of the things that they do really well is sometimes people show up and say something stupid because they don't understand. And rather than just ban them, our mods will try to let them know what's going on. Because sometimes people just have, what the fuck is this? They don't mean any disrespect. What they're actually saying is, I don't understand what this is. We explained it to them, and like a few have said tonight, they didn't know they liked watching this until they watched it, and then they're hooked. So, you know, we try to do that. But our moderators do a fantastic job. So to all of our moderators, thank you so very, very much for being here for us and helping us. You guys seem to think that it's an honor to be asked to be moderators. Trust us, it's the other way around. We're honored that you accept to take on the extra work. Because that's what it really is. It means you get to watch the stream, but you have to work too.
I mean, it's also funny because what mods really do, and what I think goes without saying, it's kind of hard, especially since we're role-playing and we're in it, is they set the tone of chat.
Right.
You know, you go to the larger channels where the mods don't do anything, and it's just a spam fest of bull.
Right.
Just the sheer fact that you guys are being the mods and you're shutting it down before it can start means that no one else is inclined to do that themselves.
Right.
So chat actually flows. It's cool. It's funny. It's, you know, about the stream or not.
Right.
But it's kind of relevant, and it's community.
And
that's what the mods really do.
Right, and as you said, it's good that they understand us enough because they've watched us. Because nobody gets to be a moderator on our show unless we know them, and that means they've been around for a good while, right? But it's great the way they know when to elevate the comic relief, and they know when to shut the comic relief down where they can to allow the tension to flow or the feels to flow and stuff like that. We're all guilty of interrupting ourselves sometimes. We're all guilty of allowing things to get really tense, and then it gets so tense that somebody feels like they've got to do a tension breaker. We all do it. But our moderators pretty much understand this is where we're supposed to be, this is the feel that we should be going for, and try to maintain that. So thank you guys for understanding us and doing a great job. Are these the mods on the screen? No, these are the players. The moderators are all the people that have a green sword next to their name, like Ninja,
Junk Farmer and Neo.
Junk Farmer, Neo Gambit, they're all here. And there's other moderators as well. So they do a fantastic job. So good job, guys.
Yay, mods!
All right, folks. We have been here long enough. We need to get out of here. So, as always, thank you for our new followers. Thank you for all of the very kind donations. And as is important to everybody, thank you for each and every one of you that spent your evening, or in some people's case, your day and morning, with us.
Yes. Thank
we
you, guys.
Thank you,
very,
everybody.
very much appreciate
You're
it. We're glad you enjoyed Children of Drakhar. We've got more coming your way, more exciting stuff. Final thing, don't forget, in conjunction with launching the 5th edition, we are doing a huge giveaway. It is huge. Mm-hmm. It continually grows. The base of it is the core D&D 5th edition hardback book set, the player's guide, the DMG, the monster manual, complete set to get you started, but a bunch of other stuff is going in there as well. One of you guys is going to get that, and it's going to be pretty epic. It's going to take some beating. So, thanks, guys.
Say goodbye.
We take care.
Bane!
Bye, guys. I'll see you
And, yes,
in the fall.
Bane will be back from time to time on the show, in between now and then, for sure. So she won't be completely absent for that entire time. You probably won't know when she's going to sneak back in, though. So you'll probably see some cameos here, some one-offs there. I may even get her to record audio so I can play it from time to time. Who knows? Nice. We'll see what happens. But absolutely. So we have thoroughly enjoyed having Bane with us for the first 3 campaigns. Cannot wait for her to be here, probably for the 5th campaign. So it's just one campaign that she's stepping out of. And as I said, it's just life gets in the way, and she's got some important family obligations to live up to, and she can't do both. So she's got to, we've already stolen a year and a half of her life, literally. So I guess we allow her to have a little bit of it back. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Take care. Bye, y'all.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Good
guys.
night.
Hi there, I'm Gorbad. Welcome to the Orc's Nest. I'm the Dungeon Master here on Howreroll, and if you'd like to follow me personally, you can do so on Twitter @Gorbad. Check out thedmblog.com for all things Dungeon Master and Dungeons & Dragons related. And of course, you can follow me on twitch.tv/Gorbad. Also, guys, don't forget, to keep up with all things Howreroll, follow us on Twitter @Howreroll. Check out the website, www.howreroll.com, and make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. Cheers, guys!
When I'm not playing Radovan Rainier, Cleric of St. Cuthbert for Howreroll, I'm just Shagget, a guy who can't do math in public. You can follow this poor lost soul on twitch.tv/Shagget, or on Twitter @Aneb_convos. For the love of all things boozy, stay in school.
I'm the Dragon Spooker, and I play Marlowe the Hot-Blooded Monk for Howreroll. You can catch my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/thedragonspooker, or you can follow me on Twitter at @dragonspooker. I hope to see you guys around.
Hi guys, thanks for watching today's episode of Howreroll. I hope you had a lot of fun, and if you'd like, you can give me a follow at Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook @Bane Blackstar, or come say hi in my own Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Bane1271. I stream full-time and usually play World of Warcraft, The Sims 4, and I even craft things out of polymer clay, but you never know what we'll get up to. I hope you'll come say hi, join in the conversation, and have some fun.
Hi, I'm Jane, and when I'm not fireballing innocent peasants, I'm perusing Twitter, eating ice cream, and petting my cat Norman. You can follow me on Twitch @JaneIvana, and on Twitter @JaneOnTwitch, and that's with a 0, not an L. Goodbye. Or as I say, peace, suckus.